Amogus.
I have cat ears for some reason. 1 second. Oh wow. Oh wow. There we go. It is very dark today, and it also is also raining because it is a spooky atmosphere. Hello, welcome back. Oh my goodness, thank you for the fellow King, and thank you so much for resubscribing, Suba. Okay, here we go. Welcome back, Kazumasa. Welcome back, Noran. Welcome back, Auntie W. Thank you for lurking. Welcome back, Randy. Welcome back, Kitsune. Welcome back, Marnus. Welcome back, Zans. Here we go. Oh, okay. Today, I don't know how today's gonna go. I'm gonna be honest. Hello, Mr. BD6, welcome back! I don't know how today's gonna go, to be honest, because let me tell you guys, I underestimated how much setup today would take, and so literally just seconds ago, I was still setting up. I was still setting up until just the last seconds. So we'll see what happens. It might be a little scuffy. We'll see what happens. Well, yes. I've got the spooky atmosphere set up. I have some spooky background music here. Some spooky Silent Hill music with rain sounds. That's why it's raining. Embrace scuff. Yes. Thank you guys. Yes. I am doing very well. I hope you are also doing well. Well, yes. This is our atmosphere. Let me get Krog back. Hold on. Let me get Krog back. There we go. Oh, there's something to look at. Hello, Mums and Joe. Welcome back. This is the church theme? I'm gonna be honest. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't played Silent Hill yet. It's just a mix of a whole bunch of them. That's a-okay. That's understandable. I'm glad you were able to make it here today, Sans. Okay. I guess. Hold on. I should probably put on the screen what the one I'm reading is called, huh? Hold on. One second. Let me. Wow. Well, hold on. What are we going to be reading first? I've got a few. I think only, let me see, how many of these were ones that you guys picked out? Okay, I think two of these are ones you guys picked out, but the rest are really short ones, because, yeah. I guess we will start with, can we start with a short one or a long one? Do you guys want a short one or a long one to start? Let's start with a short one. Let's work our way up to the long one. You should check back, oh goodness. Perfect timing. Okay, let's start with a silly one. Let's start. Hello, Mother Red, welcome back. It's not a mug you. It's not a mug me. It's a mug
us. Oh my goodness, I love that. That's wonderful. Let's start with a silly one. Hold on. Amogus. Ba 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 ba. We're gonna get warmed up with a really short, really silly one. Okay, this one's called You Will Pay. I'm gonna drink some water really quick, and then we will get started. Alright, here we go! Ahem. I'm your worst nightmare. I know others claim to be, but they're wrong. When you be- Maybe I should have turned sound alerts off. I don't know, it'll be fun. When you realize I'm out there, your knees go weak. You see my name, your mouth goes dry. You see a shadow, you know it's me. You know I'm there, your heart races. You walk down the street after a long day at work. It's very cold out and everyone has all retired to their warm houses, snuggled up by loved ones. But not you. Now you regret volunteering for overtime. You know I'm walking behind you, just far enough so I can see you, but not vice versa. I've been planning, waiting, observing. You cross the street in a feeble attempt to escape me. That won't work, and deep down inside, you know that too. You rush home, hoping that when you get inside your house, I'll disappear. You break out into a sprint, feet hitting the hard pavement. I run after. We're locked in a chase. Will I catch up or will you escape? You practically throw yourself against the door. Breathing heavily, you fumble with the lock. You get in and slam the door so hard that the burned-out light bulb in the kitchen regains power. You slump against the door, safe. Safe until tomorrow. For I will get you, Mr. Mailman. I will get you. Dog. That was the silly one that we started with. It was a dog the whole time. Oh my goodness. The monster surged through the room. He got closer and closer to the closet where I was hiding. My blood turned to ice as a single bloody eye turned towards me. And all of a sudden, have you heard of Hatsune Miku? Today I'd like to announce a new collaborative project featuring Hatsune Miku. Domino's app featuring Hatsune Miku. Yeah, a fun and silly one. A fun and silly one to start. Wow. There we go. Bow. Let's do okay. I guess we'll do a long one next. This is one of the ones that you guys submitted. Here we go. Let me get the title. Let me get the title. The Strangers. As opposed to the close acquaintances. Okay. Ahem. I'll take a sip of water. My name is Andrew Eriks. I used to live in a city you probably heard of called New York. My mother is Terry Eriks. Teresa, really. She's in the phone book under E, if they even have those things anymore. Maybe you can just Google her. I don't know. If you know the city and you read this, find her. Please. Don't show her this, but do me a favor and tell her I love her, and let her know that I'm trying to come home, really. It all started around the time I turned 25. I decided for no good reason that it was time for me to give up taking a backpack to work. Idiotically, I thought it would make me look more like the guys I saw on the trains. You know, the ones the women are with. The guys who made it. I figured if I weren't lugging around a ridiculous-looking book bag, if it were like some brain-dead kid, I'd be seen as more mature because I wouldn't look, you know, stupid. Yeah, right, I know. But that meant that I had to give up reading on the subway, going to and from work. See, I'd get a seat because I got in early, then hide a book under the pack in such a way that's peeking out just enough for me to see it, because, you know, who wants to get jumped for reading? And like hell I was gonna wear a messenger bag. Please. You're joking, right? For a while I had an MP3 player I got from my mom. That helped pass the time for a while, and I could even put books on it from the library. It was perfect because no one can tell what you're listening to. If you nod your head every once in a while, they think it's music. But I dropped the thing getting off the train in one of those shoving, let me off of the damn train fits. Ever since then, it's been shutting down at the end of every song if I don't tap it to skip to the next track. So I gave that up too. Instead, every morning on my way in, I'd sit on the endless A train, with nothing to do but watch the other passengers. I was relatively shy. I'm serious. I talk like I'm not, but I really am. See, I didn't want to be caught looking, or even looking like I was looking. Instead, I watched people from the corner of my eye. I figured out pretty fast that I wasn't the only person in the world who wasn't totally comfortable out in public. Different people hid it in different ways, but I could see through them. I made groups for them in my head. First, there were the fidgeters who couldn't get comfortable, always moving their hands, shifting their weight, and edging their legs closer to the seat, then away. They were the most nervous types. After them, second, we have the fake sleepers who would take a seat and practically close their eyes in the same moment. Lots of them were rich white guys who did this to avoid giving a seat to a pregnant woman or older person. When I saw them, I gave my seat up right away because most of those guys weren't really sleeping at all, and I'd try really hard to get close and accidentally kick their shoe or something. And I'd be all like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to wake you." Right?
No spooky stories.
Anyway, the real sleepers, my third group, shifted more suddenly whenever we stopped, or they were started by loud noises. "Hello, Bessie, welcome back!" The fakes just zoned out the second they sat down until the moment they reached their stop, at which point they'd hop up, peppy and alert, and jump off. I didn't like them very much, why do you ask? Then comes the fourth group, MP3 player addicts. The one people would probably lump me into if they'd watched me in my earlier days. The people in this group were related to the fifth group, the occasional laptop losers, and those in the sixth were ordinary people, the ones who traveled in groups and talked too loudly, so, you know, New Yorkers. I cracked myself up. Anyway, right around when people watching was getting very same old, I had my first surprise. A middle-aged white man with brown hair, completely average looks, and casual Friday clothing. Dockers, business-friendly sweater. You know the type. He was so normal, he was almost too normal. Know what I mean? He had nothing special about him. No funky hand movements, didn't weird laugh or anything. It was as if he'd been designed by one of those cop shows to fake you out. Like he was born to melt into a call-out crowd. That's why I noticed him. Here I was, purposely trying to see how people acted on the train so I could categorize them, and he didn't act at all. Didn't react either. It was like seeing someone sitting in front of the television, watching a documentary about, I don't know, something really boring. Like fish. The guy watching is excited or focused, but he's not looking away either. Present, but not accounted for. Anyway, I'm not that good at being punctual. My mom said, so I didn't get on the train at exactly the same time every day. Since I didn't care one way or the other, I didn't try to sit in the same car either. Random was fine with me. That was more than a month into my people watching and grouping experiment before he caught my eye. That normal guy I told you about. I saw him for the first time on a Monday, I think. Yeah, it was definitely a Monday, because I know I saw him the second time on a Thursday when I was heading home to hang with the same crew I've hung with every Thursday night since we were all in school together. Mr. Normal Guy, well, he obviously did catch the same train, and he sat in the same car, the first car, and in the same seat even. Talk about obsessive-compulsive. At least, that's what I thought at the time. What I should have been thinking, however, was, crap, that is not normal. Since he caught my attention so well the first time I saw him, I watched him even more closely the next time. Frankly, something about him made me really uncomfortable. Mind you, he didn't do anything to make me feel like that. He didn't do anything at all, really. What creeped me out maybe was how much he was trying not to be there. The way he sat there in silence, staring straight ahead with a blank expression on his face no matter what happened, was unnerving. Once a woman with a crying kid entered the car and sat right next to him. Still nothing. He didn't so much as turn his head or stare the kid down. And that little punk was seriously loud, too. By the time the subway reached my stop that Thursday, I felt sick. Queasy sick. And when I left the car, my hands were shaking like I was in the throes of nicotine withdrawal. That man was wrong. He was some kind of freak, a sociopath perhaps. One of those quiet guys who, as it later turns out, has a dozen women's heads in his freezer, the first victim likely his own mother. I'm telling you all this so it'll make sense why the next part is so weird. Because he freaked me out, so you'd think I would do everything I could to stay away, right? Yeah, I would have thought so too. In my early days, he was just part of my grouping experiment, and not a particularly interesting one at that. At least, I had convinced myself of that. But it wasn't long before I noticed I'd been wasting time after work in the afternoons, poking around the newsstand, reading magazines I didn't want until the clerk chased me away for loitering. Unconsciously, I was doing my best to stay off that guy's train. And if I found myself on the platform at the wrong time, his time, I made damn sure to choose the last car, the one as far away from his as possible. The opposite of obsession, right? Fine. Then, on my way to work one morning, I saw another person who set off the same warning bells in my head. This time, it was a woman in the last car, just as plain looking and just as out of place in all the hustle and bustle around her. The moment I saw that she was in his category, I only realized it later when I had lots of time to think about it, you understand. Well, that moment was when my obsession officially began. All of my people watching, which had begun as a way to keep myself from dying of boredom, became a religion to me. I couldn't set foot on a subway platform or ride a bus without examining everyone and filling out a mental checklist in my head. Plain clothes, solid colors, no brands, check. Expressionless, no casual glances out the windows or towards other passengers, check. No bags, purses, or accessories, check, check, check. We've got another. I started calling them the strangers. Like any other convert, I loved that connection. Finding my next stranger fix was my ritual. I didn't see them every day, even after I started taking the subway more than I needed to, but they were there more often than enough. Seeing one would set me on edge, make my palms sweaty and my throat dry. I know it sounds like a bad thing, but like I said, I was obsessed. Even though they didn't pay me any attention, they never looked at me or made eye contact, treated me as if I was invisible, I still felt like I was totally exposed in their presence, a flashing neon sign in the midst of Times Square, as it were. I could see them, plain as day. How could they be so oblivious of me? But they never noticed me, not in any way that I could tell. But when my curiosity finally gave my fear a beatdown, I decided to follow one of them. I thought I should go back to my first, the man on the afternoon train who always chose the same seat in the same car. I imagined he'd be easy to find, so I went to a likely platform and waited, watching for him in the windows of the front cars that pulled in. And eventually there he was. I got on and took a seat diagonally across from him, doing my best to look inconspicuous. We rode until the end of the line, and he got up and walked out before I did. Keeping a reasonable distance between us, I tailed him, but it wasn't much of a trick. He didn't even leave the platform. He took a seat on one of the cleaner wooden benches, as expressionless as always. I went behind one of the big map boards and waited, trying to look blasé. After a few minutes, the next downtown train arrived, and I watched him get in and take the same seat. I didn't have the courage to follow him again. He hadn't gone anywhere. He just rode to the end of the line, and then, what, rode it back? What possible reason would anyone have for doing that? Nagged at me long after I'd taken the next downtown back home. I tried to get some rest, but I couldn't leave it alone, not until I could make some sense of him. I was beyond confused. I was angry. How is this dude, this inhumanly silent, still guy, riding trains back and forth and going nowhere? He bothered me, but not the way a guy who unapologetically slams into you on the street without looking twice does. He bugged me the way spiders do. Big, hairy, train-riding freak spider guy makes you want to get the hell away from him. That was how the strangers were beginning to look to me. It made my eyes water and my mouth dry. What did that— Ow! Welcome back! But did that stop me? Hell no, of course not. Desperate to satisfy my curiosity, I followed him again the next day, and again the day after that. Every day for at least a week, the two of us made our silent trips together, though only I noticed. By the end of the week, I was following him for hours. All day, every day, all night. Well past the time the trains started running the night expresses and passing stations, like my stop, in parts of town that shut down for the night. We rode from the east end of the city system, down, around, and up to the top, then back again. I wasn't people watching any longer. I was person watching. Stranger watching. I didn't see anyone else on those trains I rode that week. We could have been the only two people on the planet for all I knew, or cared. I lost my job after that. My manager was nice about it, but didn't leave any room to beg. I'd lost my concentration, my focus. I'd become totally unproductive. It was actually kind of a heartfelt speech, to be honest. He'd been a nice guy, but you know what? As distracted as I was, I can barely remember him, or the words that came out of his mouth during the talk. All I could think about while he was speaking was my new work, my responsibility, my vigil. Cat food, meow! What would that mean? What would that man, that thing on the subway, get up to when I wasn't there to keep my eye on him? How would we all survive without me watching? I left work for the last time at noon that day. Normally I'd have started tailing my subject at 5:30, but I just knew that he'd be waiting for me. I wish now that I'd paid more attention to that day. Was it sunny? It was summer after all. When did it start feeling like he knew when I'd be there? I wonder because that was the last day I could have walked around downtown. My last chance to have had a beer or two at that joint with the cream-colored menus and the tables on the sidewalk. I could have sat there, checking out the girls walking by in their summer dresses. Or would that place make me drink wine? Whatever, it doesn't matter. The point is, I could have had a good time, gone home, and put all this insanity out of my head. I could have looked for a new job and started reading again. Instead, I waited for a train. Many trains are on the tracks at any given time in the city that never sleeps, so I sat in the station for at least an hour until I scored. There he was, finally, framed in his first car window as the train pulled in. I waited for the exiting crowd to thin, and shoved past the stragglers to notice, surprised, that my skin wasn't clammy, my hands weren't shaking, and my heart wasn't pounding. I sat for the first time right across from him, directly in his line of sight, and watched for him to make a change. Any change. Eyes, mouth. Hell, if one of the hairs on his head had moved, that would have been something, but no. No change. No anything. Did he recognize me? If he did, I couldn't tell, and I was looking hard. We had to be a strange pair, sitting across from each other that afternoon, staring at and into one another, because this time he had to look at me. I'm sure my face said plenty. I couldn't believe I was able to keep as still and as expressionless as he was, because inside I was screaming, "React to me, you freak! See me, damn it! Because I sure as hell can see you, you spider-brained guy!" But I didn't scream, and he didn't answer. Not during the first trip uptown, or the second one down, or the third, or the 10th. We rode into the night together, and at the end of each line, we got out and waited. This time, I didn't play. I mimicked him exactly, sitting right beside him on the bench and staring straight ahead, but always watching for my peripherals. Still nothing. But two could play, right? At last, we made our final trip together. That day, I felt untouchable. I was downright smug, so certain I had him and that he knew it. The conductor, mostly understandable on the speaker, announced that this would be the train's last run for the night. He'd be switching to a different train when we reached the last stop, and the engine and car I found myself in would retire for maintenance. Hello, Roscoe, welcome back! Welcome back! So here it was now, officially the last night of the trip. I'm not too proud to tell you that I'd always let him get away from me before this point when it was this late. The end of the line is a long way from my home, and if the trains go slow this time of night, the buses are flat out worse than waiting for Santa's sleigh to show up and take you home in July. But this time I thought, what the hell? I'd follow him and finally get a look at where he was, what he was, when the train stopped running. Maybe this time I'd get some answers. The subway rolled on toward the end, and my stomach rolled with it. The car emptied like coffee through a filter until it was just us, whose silent watchers beneath the city. I fought to keep a crazy grin off my face while the subway train slowed to a crawl and then stopped. The doors opened to no one. The end of the line. The stranger didn't move, didn't react at all. The car stood still, doors open. I could hear a few stragglers faintly, far down the platform, making their way out of the station, their footsteps echoing the silence. Nothing. The speaker system crackled in a half attempt to let any sleeping riders know that we'd gone as far as we could go. Still nothing. And then, I heard footsteps again. A conductor perhaps popping his head into each car to make sure it was empty before he took the train to wherever the hell it goes for the night. No matter what I heard, however, I was not to take my eyes off my captive. I paid attention to the conductor when he finally reached our car while still staring down the stranger. The conductor looked in. His eyes scanned over us, and then he looked confused, like he'd forgotten a phone number he'd known his whole life. He blinked a few times and paused. I waited for him to say something, but the moment stretched out, spinning slowly in a track breeze. Then, with a slight shake of the head, he walked towards the conductor's door, keyed it open, and left us in the main car. A few minutes later, the train started up again. We rode straight off underground for a while. Then it felt like the train looped around and stopped. I could see the windows of more trains behind the motionless companion, and were those trains' windows? More trains. And then, while I was trying to calculate my next steps, he smiled at me. It was nothing more than a slight curl of the lip, but I noticed. I probably wouldn't have if I hadn't spent the last God knows how many hours studying his face. Smile's normal, right? Sometimes, as it turns out, it's not. So, the stranger said in rough baritone, "Here we are." I tried to respond but couldn't. My throat had clammed shut. I was incredulous. I'd been waiting for this what felt like my entire life, and yet I'd been rendered speechless. The entire tunnel system we were in felt as if it had just collapsed onto me. I coughed and stammered and finally managed in a rasping tone to ask the question that kept me up at night, the one which drove me halfway to madness and led me to this place in this moment. "What are you?" He ignored me and stood. The train doors opened and he started walking. A moment later, he turned and stared straight into me again. "Coming?" he called. He didn't wait for an answer, but stepped out onto the platform. I scrambled out after him, finding words difficult to come by, and immediately wished I had brought a bottle of water. "Come on, damn it!" I finally shouted, then tripped on the uneven platform. He ignored me and continued walking. "Talk to me!" I hollered while I picked myself up. "Who are you? What are you? Why do you ride the trains all day?" He didn't look back or slow his step. I couldn't see his face as I recovered my balance, but I'm willing to bet he didn't react at all, or at least no more than he had in response to anything else. I stalked after him, shouting until I realized the futility of my actions, and I gave up. 5 words were all I was going to get out of him, it seemed. In spite of a growing sense of unease, I was overwhelmed with curiosity. I'd come all this way, and I wasn't about to leave without an explanation. And so, I traversed the platform until we came to an odd junction of sorts, unlike any I'd ever seen in the New York City subway system before. Trains lined both sides of a platform that appeared to stretch into infinity. This place was even spookier than the old ghost platform I was lucky enough to glimpse in a dim tunnel years ago on a quiet early morning when my train was rerouted. Suddenly, the stranger turned. We'd been walking perpendicular to the trains around us, passing nose after nose of the hulking vehicles, their headlights seemingly glaring at us as we passed. The path ahead was lit from above, but I couldn't see where it ended. Innumerable trains on either side of us went on forever, so far as I could tell. Far too many trains to service one city, I realized, even one as densely populated as New York. No one needed this many trains. It wouldn't have changed anything, I know, but I probably should have paid more attention to that at that time. I'm not sure how long we walked. I had a watch once, but it broke and I never replaced it. Kinda like the MP3 player now that I think about it. Go figure. Pathetically, I took out my cell phone at one point, but as expected, I had no signal. The stranger stopped every now and then and looked at a subway car long enough to get me jumpy, but then he'd pass on. I'd stand there looking at the train he'd paid so much attention to, seeing nothing out of the ordinary about it at all. Finally, after who knows how long, I saw what he saw. The trains weren't all the same. We'd walk past tons that were similar, and then we'd come upon a different model. Even in the gloom, it was easy to tell when they were a little larger or smaller, or that they had a different curve to their nose, different siding, or different doors. The conductor's cabins were a little different as well. I didn't see and still don't know exactly what the stranger was looking for. Well, he was waiting for the trains to tell him, but he must have found it because zip! There he went, turning down a platform. The train's doors opened as soon as he stopped in front of them. I followed closely behind, and we took our usual seats in the darkened car. "Are you willing to speak now?" I asked him. No answer. I sighed with frustration and seriously began weighing the pros and cons of punching him in the face when the lights in the car came on and the engine started. "What the hell?" I said. When he locked eyes with me then, he actually looked sad. Then he offered 6 more words that changed everything. "You can't go back, you know." "What the hell are you talking about?" I retorted. "Go back where?" The stonewalling dude just sat there, ignoring me. Our train lurched, pushed off in the opposite direction from what I expected. The Macy's Day never-ending parade of trains had thrown off my sense of direction, I guessed. We rolled on for a few minutes and then slowed as we approached a stop. His gaze, vacant since the train started moving, grew sharper. For the first time, I got the sense that he was finally staring at me rather than just staring in the direction I happened to be in. "Be still. Be silent," he said. "Don't catch their attention." The train stopped, doors opened, and they began to flood in. I don't know what I noticed first. The weird clothes, the 2 long arms with hands nearly brushing the floor, the jet black eyes set deep into angular faces, or their blue-gray skin. My eyes saw it, but my brain refused to process it. When my mind could no longer ignore the horrors right in front of me, it was all I could do to stymie the shriek which threatened to tear its way out of my throat. My frantic heart felt like it was going to explode out of my chest. Like a strummed bass string, everything in me lurched and throbbed with the rolling spasms of horror. My head grew dizzy, my eyes fogged over, which I was thankful for, and I felt bile rising in the back of my throat. Following the stranger's instructions, I kept my mouth clenched shut, forced me to swallow it back down, managing only because the other option was much worse. My instincts screamed his words at me. "Be still, be silent, don't catch their attention." The rest of the day was a blur. We rode the subway car up and down the line, both still, both expressionless, for hours. For days, maybe. It seemed longer than the route I knew. The line I'd followed the stranger on for so long. The hideous things around us seemed to pay us no mind, though I, at least, must have stood out like a nun at a heavy metal concert. When we finally returned, alone, at the endless cavern of trains, I burst into tears in our blessedly empty car and collapsed to the floor, exhausted, and sobbed for a long time. The stranger simply watched. When my breathing had returned somewhat to normal, I managed to croak, "Take me home, please." "I can't," he said bluntly. "I don't know which one of these would lead you back, if any of them do." He stood, the doors opened again, and he stepped out once again onto the platform. I fought the urge to whimper like an abused puppy and follow him. He spun around, eyes glinting. "You followed me long enough." "What?" I shouted, fury overshadowing my misery. Rushing forward, I grabbed the stranger by the shoulders and with an unexpected burst of strength, slammed him up against the side of the nearest train car. "You jerk! What the hell did you get me into? What did you do to me?" I smashed him against the metal walls again and again. "Take me back!" I screamed. Like a candle deprived of oxygen, the sight of his eyes returning once more to their usual motionless state extinguished the rage in me, and I felt my anger peter out, leaving me hollow. "Please," I begged again. "Please take me home." "That's not how it works," he said. "Go your own way. Be still and be subtle, and they'll think that you're one of theirs." "One of their what?" I demanded. He peered down at his hands in silence. "How could you do this to me?" I cried. "Why?" He cast me a melancholy glance. "You'll do it too. Sometimes you get stuck." He brushed my hands off his shoulders and turned to walk away. Devastated, I fell to my knees. He turned back to me one final time. "I'm sorry," he said, and touched his finger to my forehead. That's the last thing I remember. I don't know what he did to me or why. When I came to, I knew my role and played it to the best of my ability. I was still, I was silent, and I rode to the ends of the lines, no matter who or what got on. Being still was as good as being invisible, but once in a while I caught a reflection in a train window. The first 100 times it happened, I didn't catch on, but eventually even I understood. The longer I rode with the things, the more I became like them. I was stuck in their world until someone started watching me. Then, if they followed, and only then, I had a chance of getting back to the endless platform of lost trains. In the time I spent ensnared in that place, I did some terrible things I'm not proud of, to the other strangers. But I'd made my choice. I was not going to lure anyone else into their trap, not even if it got me home faster. They were better off dead than me in whatever state I was. It makes me wonder, though, about the stranger who got me into this situation. I wonder what he originally looked like, and whether he knew he could have killed me and gotten back to the hub that way. I wonder, too, about the others I saw back home, and the rare few I'd come across since I left. Do they kill them or take them? Whichever one they choose, do they consider it a mercy? I can't bring myself to talk to them, to ask. We're damned either way, the damned ought to suffer in silence. I've killed 15 strangers now, and I've gotten very good at it. But I've made a decision. I'm done killing. Innocents, at least. Before I returned to Central Hub this last time, I scrounged as much paper as I could, and I wrote this story, over and over again, to be left in as many subway cars as I could manage. Thousands of messages and bottles cast into a sea of steel rails. This tale is a request. It's also a warning. My request, remember, was that you find my mother and tell her a lie. It's a white lie, don't worry. You have to find her, then tell her that I love her, and that I'm trying to come home. Maybe give her some hope, or peace, or something. And oh, how I wish it were true. But here's the thing. I've been thinking I'm similar to the character we read out in school, when the teacher tried to get us all jazzed about mythology. Did you ever read the story about Odysseus, lost and drifting upon the sea, looking to return home, to something in some place familiar? That's me, struggling to find my way. But that's where the similarities end, I'm afraid. Because I'm not lost at sea. I'm lost in endless tunnels. A labyrinth of sorts. The distinction is important, because labyrinths are designed. They're built, intentionally. And just like in those old legends of Theseus, it's the same here. Okay, ready? Okay, thank you for selling my cents! Someone or something made this impossible place, and they're going to pay for what they've done to me. The rules of this place have transformed me from what I once was into something else entirely, something horribly inhuman, and then into something else again. They've created a monster, and if that's what they expect, I'll be their minotaur in this labyrinth. And if I can, I'll tear it down around me and take the ones that built it along for the ride. They have no idea who they're dealing with. They never should have messed with a New Yorker. My warning, because I'm trying to be a good Samaritan here with my balled-up story scribbled on dirty paper, is that you should stay as far away as possible, even in public places, from silent, expressionless people. Just keep your distance. They may kill you, or something far worse. You see them, run far and run fast. And even more importantly, I beg you, do not ride any train to the end of the line. That ride might just be your last, or it might just last forever.
Da-da-da! The end. Yes, the free lower voice. It is my narration voice. Free lower voice. Okay. Thank you, Randy. thank you. Very good. We've gotten 2 stories done, although one was very, very short, so it technically doesn't count. I am going to very quickly, be right back. I'm going to be right back, and then we'll get to the next story. And then we'll do more story after that, and then another story after that, and so on and so forth. Yes, I'll be right back. One moment, please. There's another version? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Subway Isekai. It's a Subway Isekai. Oh my goodness. Okay. Thank you, Bumstick Joe! Okay, let's see. We have a long one and a handful of short ones. Should we do short one, long one, and then short one, long one like that? That sounds like a good way to do it. An all-you-can-eat world. And it's free? Oh my goodness, that's like a dream come true. Best isekai ever, exactly. Oh my goodness. That's amazing. That's wonderful. That's beautiful. Okay, let's see. We're gonna do another short one and then another long one. Let me write the title of this one down. The monster in the pantry. We have something about the. Oh, okay. So there's like the alternate ending. Let's see. Okay, here we go. I'll drink some water. Ahem. Unexplained phenomenon is a staple in human culture. Strange goings-on, paranormal in nature are prominent in our lives in one form or another. We may not think about them all that often, but there's always a piece in the news or a crazy story from a friend or passerby that makes you recall such strangeness. No matter how many times you forget about the subject, there will always be a moment that drags the notion back to the surface of your memory. For several years, I had forgotten all about the monster living in my mom's pantry. I had forgotten all about it, that is, until now. I was 10 years old when I first became aware of the monster's presence. It was a normal evening at home. My mother and I awaited my father's arrival, and I helped her out with dinner preparations. I look back on these memories fondly. I loved cooking with my mom and was overjoyed whenever my father came home from work. I had what some would consider a picture-perfect childhood, save for one peculiarity. The thing that resided in the pantry would audibly reveal itself late that very night. The music's too loud? Uh-oh. Hold on, I'll fix it. Quack. Become quiet. There we go. Okay. There we go. Okay, that should be a little bit better. Okay. A little bit. Okay, let me drink some more water. Okay. While cutting up vegetables for my mom's famous beef barley soup, I heard a scratching at the pantry door. Startled, I jumped, nearly cutting off one of my fingers in the process. My mom looked over at the pantry, then to me with a concerned smile. I looked to her for answers, utterly baffled by the noise. There it goes again, scratching at the pantry door. What is it, Mom? I asked. I'm not too sure, sweetie, but it's been here ever since we moved in. Sometimes it scratches at the door, other times it will knock food off the pantry shelves. Some nights it doesn't make a sound at all. There was no comfort derived from her explanation. I was still frightened, and my mother noticed this. It's nothing to be scared of, honey. Is it something bad? I asked. No, of course not. Just then the scratching recommenced. I jumped a second time. My mother then walked over to the pantry door. Here, look. He opened it up as the scratching continued. Once the door was completely ajar, the sound ceased. See, sweetie, there's nothing to be worried about. Despite my mother's comforting words, my 10-year-old heart couldn't help but race with fear. In the coming years, I continued to help her cook, but I never once set foot back in that pantry, convinced that the thing living in there was a monster out to get me. This fear was kept alive by the scratching that would interrupt otherwise happy moments. I ignored it the best I could, but sometimes I would have to leave the kitchen. Eventually, the sounds stopped altogether. It's now been many years since then, and both my parents have passed away. In their wills, I was left everything, including my childhood home. It took me a while to come to terms with their deaths and move back in, but I eventually accepted the situation and embraced the living space where I grew up. It was the little memories sprinkled throughout the house that helped me cope. Sometimes I would walk into the living room and see my dad sitting in his chair smoking a cigar and watching his favorite sitcom. At other points, I would see my mother in the kitchen making us dinner. These corporeal fragments of a time long since past kept me going. After a while, the house felt like home again. Until one day. I just arrived home from work when it happened. I sat down on my dad's favorite chair and flipped on the TV to unwind. Something crossed my mind. Minus the tobacco, I'd actually become my father. This thought put a bit of a smile on my face as I reclined the chair to relax. A cigar? No! Krog, no! No, Krog, you've gone so long! You've gone so long! Where are we? Relaxation never came, though, as an all-too-familiar scratching sound emanated from the nearby pantry. My smile quickly vanished. I jumped up and ran to the kitchen to investigate. Scratching continued and increased in volume. I stood at the door hoping an answer would jump out at me, but also hoping whatever was inside wouldn't do the same. Without many options at my disposal, I was forced to open it. Much to my anticipation, the noise ceased, and I found nothing behind the door but some empty shelves and an old broom. It was the same thing that happened when my mother opened the door many years ago. I was no longer a frightened child, but the sound's return was still unnerving. At least, it was at first. After a while, it became nothing more than a bothersome fixture in my otherwise normal days.
Whenever I came home from work, woke up in the middle of the night, or sat down to watch television, that terrible scratching would invade my ear space, not stopping until I opened that damn pantry door. The routine continued for over a year. One night, however, everything changed. I'd just gotten home from a long day of work and flung myself into the comfort of my bedsheets. I wanted more than anything to drift off into a peaceful slumber, hoping the day's troubles would melt away in the form of happy dreams and restful sleep. Unfortunately for me, the moment my head hit the pillow, the scratching started up once more. I groaned in anger, not wanting to leave my bed for anything, much less that damn noise. Because of this, I made the mistake of not getting up right away. I hit my internal snooze button and allowed myself to drift off for a few moments. When I came to, something was amiss. I didn't notice it at first, but the unsettling silence made way for a startling revelation. The scratching had stopped. How strange. It never stopped on its own before. Perplexed, I jumped out of bed and ventured downstairs to investigate. What I saw upon entering the kitchen alarmed me. The pantry door was wide open. That can't be. It was definitely closed when I got home earlier. Turning the light on only revealed the usual empty shelves. It wasn't until my hand met the wood of the door that I noticed something unusual. Embedded in the hard oak were deep gashes, claw marks that covered the entire bottom half of the door. Those weren't there before. What the hell's going on? My childhood was beginning to catch up with me. Memories of the pantry came bursting through the floodgates. The scratches, the nightmares, the fear. But I wasn't a child this time, and I wasn't going to let a little superstition get the better of me. It was just a raccoon or a large rat, that's all. At least, that's what I told myself. I scoured the house for nearly an hour, ignoring my fast-beating heart the whole time. Whatever escaped from the pantry was nowhere to be found. As I stepped back into the kitchen to close the door and call it a night, something stopped me in my tracks. A shadowy figure raced across my field of vision and into the pantry. Crack! The pantry door shut on its own, shaking the walls around it. A bone-chilling vibration reverberated through the entire house in an instant, and was then followed by an eerily dead silence. My heart sank my bowels. I was officially rattled. Running on pure instinct, I grabbed the heaviest things I could find and piled them in front of the door, including my dad's old chair. Once satisfied with my blockade, I raced upstairs, locked my bedroom door, and jumped it underneath the sheets. I was a kid again. Scared out of my mind with a monster living in my mom's pantry. After the fear and adrenaline tapered off, I managed to get a little bit of rest. My late-night adventure had come to an end. I woke up the next morning in denial, a defense mechanism of a mind bruised by fear. Pretending nothing happened the previous night, I went about my morning routine as normal. After breakfast, I was able to walk right past the pile of crap in front of the pantry without flinching. I even ignored the scratch marks on my front door as I left for work. Everything was fine. There was no monster. No supernatural entity taking over my home. It was absurd. It was just a raccoon. A very large raccoon. The lies only lasted for so long. Grabbing away, the terror set back in, sending me into a desperate frenzy of distress and unease. Though distracted by my strange predicament, I managed to make it to work in one piece. Work brought me no solace. All I could think about was what awaited me at home. I was on edge and my boss noticed this. He asked if I needed to leave early and get some rest. I practically shouted the word no at him, begging him to let me stay. I wanted to be away from the house as long as I could. Though confused by my unorthodox behavior, my boss obliged. I may have been able to stay at work, but I had to clock out eventually. The day went by far too quickly, and before I knew it, I was back home, sitting in my driveway, dreading the thought of opening the front door. Because of this, I sat in my car for a while, attempting to come up with a plan of action. What do I do? Who can I tell? Where will I stay? The questions swirled around my tired mind until I shut my eyes and took a deep breath to relax. The weariness caught up with me in this moment, causing me to drift off into a stress-induced coma of sorts. I woke up a few hours later to the terrifying sight of scratch marks on my driver's side window. That was the last straw. That's it, I proclaimed out loud. I wasn't going to let this thing control my life, and I certainly wasn't going to let it drive me out of my own home. This is where I grew up, where I spent my childhood with my mother and father. They were still with me, the recollections scattered throughout the house, reminding me of who they were and the impact they had on my life. No amount of scratching was going to tear their memories I had of them. Fed up, I got out of my car, walked up to the house, and swung the front door open. I was greeted with the sound of scratching, but this time it was louder than it ever had been before. As I stormed over to the kitchen, the noise morphed into a thunderous bang at the pantry door, causing the stuff I piled in front of it to move a bit, but everyone inside really wanted to get out this time. Adrenaline coursed through my veins. My fight-or-flight response was begging me to run, but it was too late. I had already made up my mind. I was going to face this thing head-on and get to the bottom of the mystery. This was my home, after all. It belonged to me and my family, not whatever this thing was. In removing the stack of furniture, the bang continued and grew louder. The kitchen cabinets around me swung open. Various pots and pans fell off the shelves. An earthquake of supernatural proportions filled my home, but I didn't allow it to rattle me. I knew what I had to do. After a moment of mental preparation, I opened the pantry door. There, sitting behind the door, was a dog. It sat there and looked up at me in confusion. I did the same to it. After giving me a once-over, it walked over to me and nuzzled up against my leg. I instinctively reached down and pet it as I would any dog, but this wasn't any dog. After a few minutes of getting to know each other, it walked back into the pantry and vanished before my very eyes. It was a ghost. My fear completely dissipated after that day. I now come home to the sound of scratching and smile. I no longer open the pantry door in fear, but instead to let my new friend out. He walks around the house, exploring just like a normal dog would. He even sits down and watches TV with me from time to time. He is a bit shy though, vanishing whenever I have company over. Still, he's a good dog. A very good dog. I assume he belonged to one of the many owners of this house, seeing as it had been built long before my parents moved in. I guess he just couldn't let the place go. Neither could I. A few weeks of bonding later, I realized I didn't have anything to call him by. I walked over to the little guy and pet him on the back of his neck. That was his favorite spot. I thought about it for a moment and then came up with a perfect name. I'll call you... Monster.
Story number 3, end. That was a fun one. That was a nice one. Not super spooky, but I had a nice ending. Where's my... trying to find... There it is, there it is. Have I written any creepypasta myself? Not really. I mean, like, when I was a kid, I like, you know, ooh, spooky campfire story. But nothing, like, decent. Nothing decent. Nothing that has ever seen the light of day. Oh, whap. There you go, I'll drink some more water. Yeah. It would be nice to write some scary stories, though. I love scary stories. I'm just not super good at writing, although I guess, much like art, you get better with practice. Mega Man stories? I mean, hey. When you're a kid, most things you do are quite bad. That's kind of how it is. Oh. Let's see. What is next? Okay, I said I was gonna do a long one next. We're gonna do a long one. This is one of the ones that you guys suggested. Here we go. This, I think, is the longest one out of all of them. No end house. Watch the house actually have an end. That'd be so crazy if it did. Okay, I'll drink some water and we will read it. Okay.
Let me start by saying that Peter Terry was addicted to heroin. We were friends in college and continued to be after I graduated. Notice that I said I. He dropped out after 2 years of barely cutting it. After I moved out of the dorms and into a small apartment, I didn't see Peter as much. We would talk online every now and then. AIM was king in pre-Facebook years. There was a period where he wasn't online for about 5 weeks straight. I wasn't worried. He was a pretty notorious flake and drug addict, so I assumed he just stopped caring. Then one night I saw him log on. Before I could initiate conversation, he sent me a message. David, man, we need to talk. That was when he told me about the No End house. It got that name because no one had ever reached the final exit. The rules are pretty simple and cliche. Reach the final room of the building and you win $500. There were 9 rooms in all. The house was located outside the city, roughly 4 miles from my whole house. Apparently, Peter had tried and failed. He was a heroin and who knows what else addict, so I figured the drugs just got the best of him and he wigged out at a paper ghost or something. He told me it would be too much for anyone. That was unnatural. I didn't believe him. I told him I would check it out the next night, and no matter how hard he tried to convince me otherwise, $500 sounded too good to be true. I had to go. I set out the following night. When I arrived, I immediately noticed something strange about the building. Have you ever seen or read something that shouldn't be scary, but for some reason a chill crawls up to your spine? I walked towards the building and the feeling of uneasiness only intensified as I opened the front door. My heart slowed and I let a relieved sigh leave me as I entered. The room looked like a normal hotel lobby decorated for Halloween. A sign was posted in place of a worker. It read, "Room 1 this way, 8 more to follow. Reach the end and you win." I chuckled and made my way to the first door. The first area was almost laughable. The decor resembled the Halloween aisle of a Kmart, complete with sheet ghosts and animatronic zombies that give a static growl when you pass by. At the far end was an exit. It was the only door besides the one I entered through. I brushed through the fake spiderwebs and headed for the second room. I was greeted by fog as I opened the door to room 2. The room definitely upped the ante in terms of technology. Not only was there a fog machine, but a bat hung from the ceiling and flew in a circle. Scary. They seemed to have a Halloween soundtrack that would fit in a 99-cent store and loop somewhere in the room. I didn't see a stereo, but I guess they must have used a PA system. I stepped over a few toy rats that wheeled around and walked with a puffed chest across the next area. I reached for the doorknob and my heart sank to my knees. I did not want to open that door. A feeling of dread hit me so hard I could barely even think. Logic overtook me after a few terrified moments and I shook it off and entered the next room. Room 3 is when things began to change. On the surface, it looked like a normal room. There was a chair in the middle of the wood-paneled floor, a single lamp in the corner did a poor job lighting the area, casting a few shadows across the floor and walls. That was the problem. Shadows. Plural. With the exception of the chairs, there were others. I'd barely walked in the door and I was already terrified. At that moment I knew something wasn't right. I didn't even think as I automatically tried to open the door I came through. It was locked from the other side. That set me off. Was someone locking the doors as I progressed? There was no way. I would have heard them. Was it a mechanical lock that set automatically? Maybe, but I was too scared to really think. I turned back to the room and the shadows were gone. The chair's shadow remained, but the others were gone. I slowly began to walk. I used to hallucinate when I was a kid, so I wrote off the shadows as a figment of my imagination. I began to feel better as I made it to the halfway point of the room. I looked down as I took my steps, and that's when I saw it. Or didn't see it. My shadow wasn't there. I didn't have time to scream. I ran as fast as I could to the other door and flung myself without thinking into the room beyond. The fourth room was possibly the most disturbing. As I closed the door, all light seemed to be sucked out and put back into the previous room. I stood there, surrounded by darkness, not able to move. I'm not afraid of the dark, and never have been, but I was absolutely terrified. All sight had left me. I held my hand in front of my face, and I didn't know what I was doing. I never would have been able to tell. Darkness doesn't describe it. I couldn't hear anything. It was dead silence. When you're in a soundproof room, you can still hear yourself breathing. You can hear yourself being alive. I couldn't. I began to stumble forward after a few moments, my rapidly beating heart the only thing I could feel. There was no door in sight. I wasn't even sure there was one this time. The silence was then broken by a low hum. I felt something behind me. It spun around wildly, but I could barely even see my nose. I knew it was there, though. Regardless of how dark it was, I knew something was there. The hum grew louder, closer. It seemed to surround me, but I knew whatever was causing the noise was in front of me, inching closer. I took a step back. I never felt that kind of fear. I can't really describe true fear. I wasn't even scared I was going to die. I was scared of what the alternative was. I was afraid of what this thing had in store for me. Then the lights flashed for a second and I saw it. Nothing. I saw nothing, and I know I saw nothing there. The room was again plunged into darkness, and the hum became a wild screech. I screamed in protest. I couldn't hear this goddamn sound for another minute. I ran backwards away from the noise and fumbled for the door handle. I turned and fell into room 5. Before I describe room 5, you have to understand something. I am not a drug addict. I've had no history of drug abuse or any sort of psychosis short of the childhood hallucinations I mentioned earlier, and those were only when I was really tired or just waking up. I entered the no-end house with a clear head. After falling in from the previous room, my view of room 5 was from my back, looking up at the ceiling. What I saw didn't scare me, it simply surprised me. Trees had grown into the room and towered above my head. The ceilings in this room were far taller than the others, which made me think I was in the center of the house. I got up off the floor, dusted myself off, and took a look around. It was definitely the biggest room of them all. I couldn't even see the door from where I was. Various brush and trees must have blocked my line of sight with the exit. Up to this point, I figured the rooms were going to get scarier, but this was a paradise compared to the last room. I also assumed whatever was in room 4 stayed back there. I was incredibly wrong. As I made my way deeper into the room, I began to hear what one would hear if they were in a forest. Chirping bugs and the occasional flap of birds seemed to be my only company in this room. That was the thing that bothered me the most. I heard the bugs and other animals, but I didn't see any of them. I began to wonder how big this house was. From the outside when I first walked up to it, it looked like a regular house. It was definitely on the bigger side, but there's almost a full forest in here. The canopy covered my view of the ceiling, but I assumed it was still there, however high it was. I couldn't see any walls either. The only way I knew I was still inside was that the floor matched the other rooms. The standard dark wood paneling. I kept walking, hoping that the next tree I passed would reveal the door. After a few moments of walking, I felt a mosquito fly into my arm. Shook it off and kept going. A second later, I felt about 10 more land on my skin at different places. I felt them crawl up and down my arms and legs, and a few made their way across my face. I flailed wildly to get them all off, but they just kept crawling. I looked down and let out a muffled scream. Or a whimper, to be honest. I didn't see a single bug. Not one bug was on me, but I could feel them crawl. I heard them fly by my face and sting my skin, but I couldn't see a single one. I dropped to the ground and began to roll wildly. I was desperate. I hated bugs, especially ones I couldn't see or touch. But these bugs could touch me, and they were everywhere. I began to crawl. I had no idea where I was going. The entrance was nowhere in sight, and I still hadn't even seen the exit. So I just crawled, my skin wriggling with the presence of those phantom bugs. After what seemed like hours, I found the door. I grabbed the nearest tree and propped myself up, mindlessly slapping my arms and legs to no avail. I tried to run, but I couldn't. My body was exhausted from crawling and dealing with whatever it was that was on me. I took a few shaky steps to the door, grabbing each tree on the way for support. It was only a few feet away when I heard it. Low hum from before. It was coming from the next room, and it was deeper. I could almost feel it inside my body, like when you stand next to an amp at a concert. The feeling of the bugs on me lessened as the hum grew louder. As I placed my hand on the doorknob, the bugs were completely gone, but I couldn't bring myself to turn the knob. I knew that if I let go, the bugs would return, and there was no way I would make it back to room 4. I just stood there, my head pressed against the door marked 6, and my hand shakily grasping the knob. The hum was so loud I couldn't even hear myself pretend to think. There was nothing I could do but move on. Room 6 was next, and room 6 was hell. I closed the door behind me, my eyes held shut and my ears ringing. The hum was surrounding me. As the door clicked into place, the hum was gone. I opened my eyes in surprise, and the door I had shut was gone. Just a wall now. I looked around in shock. The room was identical to room 3. I need some water! The room was identical to room 3, the same chair and lamp, but with the correct amount of shadows this time. The only real difference was that there was no exit door, and the one I came through was gone. As I said before, I had no previous issues in terms of mental instability, but at that moment I fell into what I now know was insanity. I didn't scream. I didn't make a sound.
Hello, Terracraft, welcome back! In shorts.
At first, I scratched softly. The wall was tough, but I knew the door was there somewhere. I just knew it was. I scratched it where the doorknob was. I clawed at the wall frantically with both hands, my nails being filed down to the skin against the wood. I fell silently to my knees. The only sound in the room, the incessant scratching against the wall. I knew it was there. The door was there. I knew it was just there. Oh, I knew if I could just get past this wall. Are you alright? I jumped off the ground and spun in one motion. I leaned against the wall behind me and saw what it was that spoke to me. To this day, I regret ever turning around. There was a little girl. She was wearing a soft white dress that went down to her ankles. She had long, blonde hair to the middle of her back and white skin and blue eyes. It was the most frightening thing I had ever seen, and I knew that nothing in my life will ever be as unnerving as what I saw in her. But looking at her, I saw something else. Where she stood, I saw what looked like a man's body, only larger than normal and covered in hair. He was naked from head to toe, but his head was not human and his toes were hooves. It wasn't the devil, but at that moment it might as well have been. The form had the head of a ram and the snout of a wolf. It was horrifying, and it was synonymous with the little girl in front of me. They were the same form. I can't really describe it, but I saw them at the same time. They shared the same spot in that room, but it was like looking at two separate dimensions. When I saw the girl, I saw the form. When I saw the form, I saw the girl. I couldn't speak. I could barely even see. My mind was revolting against what it was attempting to process. I had been scared before in my life, and I'd never been more scared than when I was trapped in the 4th room. But that was before room 6. I just stood there staring at whatever it was that spoke to me. There was no exit. I was trapped in here with it. And then it spoke again. David, you should have listened. When it spoke, I heard the words of the little girl, but the other form spoke to my mind in a voice I won't attempt to describe. There was no other sound. The voice just kept repeating that sentence over and over in my mind, and I agreed. I didn't know what to do. I was slipping into madness, yet couldn't take my eyes off what was in front of me. I dropped to the floor. I thought I had passed out, but the room wouldn't let me. I just wanted it to end. I was on my side, my eyes wide open, and the form staring down at me. Scurrying across the floor in front of me was one of the battery-powered rats from the 2nd room. The house was toying with me. But for some reason, seeing that rat pulled my mind from back from whatever depths it was headed, I looked around the room. I was getting out of there. I was determined to get out of that house and live and never think about this place again. I knew this room was hell, and I wasn't ready to take up a residency. At first, it was just my eyes that moved. I searched the walls for any kind of opening. The room wasn't that big, so it didn't take long to soak up the entire layout. The demon still taunted me, the voice growing louder as the form stayed rooted where it stood. I placed my hand on the floor, lifted myself up to all 4, and turned to scan the wall behind me. Then, I saw something I couldn't believe. The form was now right at my back, whispering into my mind how I shouldn't have come. I felt its breath on the back of my neck, but I refused to turn around. A large rectangle was scratched into the wood, with a small dent chipped away in the center of it. Right in front of my eyes, I saw the large 7 I had mindlessly etched into the wall. I knew what it was. Room 7 was just beyond that wall, where room 5 was moments ago. I don't know how I had done it. Maybe it was just my state of mind at the time, but I had created the door. I knew I had. In my madness, I had scratched into the wall what I needed the most, an exit to the next room. Room 7 was close. I knew the demon was right behind me, but for some reason it couldn't touch me. I closed my eyes and placed both hands on large 7 in front of me. I pushed. I pushed as hard as I could. The demon was now screaming in my ear. It told me I was never leaving. It told me that this was the end, but I wasn't going to die. I was going to live there in room 6 with it. I wasn't. I pushed and screamed at the top of my lungs. I knew I was going to push through the wall eventually. I clenched my eyes shut and screamed, and the demon was gone. I was left in silence. I turned around slowly and was greeted by the room as it was when I entered, just a chair and a lamp. I couldn't believe it, but I didn't have time to well. I turned back to the 7 and jumped back slightly. What I saw was a door. It wasn't the one I had scratched in, but a regular door with a large 7 on it. My whole body was shaking. It took me a while to turn the knob. I just stood there for a while staring at the door. I couldn't stay in room 6. I couldn't. But if this was only room 6, imagine what 7 had in store. I must have stood there for an hour just staring at the 7. Finally, with a deep breath, I twisted the knob and opened the door to room 7. I stumbled through the door mentally exhausted and physically weak. The door behind me closed and I realized where I was. I was outside. Not outside like room 5, but actually outside. My eyes stung. I'll drink some water. My eyes stung. My eyes stung. I wanted to cry. I fell to my knees and tried, but I couldn't. I was finally out of that hell. I didn't even care about the prize that was promised. I turned and saw that the door I just went through was the entrance. I walked to my car and drove home, thinking of how nice the shower sounded. As I pulled up to my house, I felt uneasy. The joy of leaving No End House had faded and dread was slowly building in my stomach. I shook it off as residual from the house and made my way to the front door. I entered and immediately went up to my room. There on my bed was my cat Baskerville. He was the first living thing I had seen all night, and I reached to pet him. He hissed and swiped at my hand. I recoiled in shock as he had never acted like that. I thought, whatever, he's an old cat. I jumped in the shower and got ready for what I was expecting to be a sleepless night. After my shower, I went to the kitchen to make something to eat. I descended the stairs and turned into the family room. What I saw would be forever burned into my mind, however. My parents were lying on the ground, naked and covered in blood. They were mutilated to near unidentifiable states. Their limbs were removed and placed next to their bodies, and their heads were placed on their chests facing me. The most unsettling part was their expressions. They were smiling, as if they were happy to see me. I vomited and sobbed there in the family room. I didn't know what had happened. They didn't even live with me at the time. I was a mess. Then I saw it. A door that was never there before. A door with a large 8 scrawled on it in blood. I was still in the house. I was standing in my family room, but I was in room 7. The faces of my parents smiled wider as I realized this. They weren't my parents. They couldn't be, but they looked exactly like them. The door marked 8 was across the room, behind the mutilated bodies in front of me. I knew I had to move on, but at that moment, I gave up. Their smiling faces tore into my mind. They grounded me where I stood. I vomited again and nearly collapsed. Then the hum returned. It was louder than ever, and it filled the house and shook the walls. The hum compelled me to walk. I began to walk slowly, making my way closer to the door and the bodies. I could barely stand, let alone walk, and the closer I got to my parents, the closer I came to suicide. The walls were now shaking so hard it seemed as though they were going to crumble. Still the faces smiled at me. As I inched closer, their eyes followed me. I was now between the 2 bodies, a few feet away from the door. Their dismembered hands clawed their way across the carpet towards me, all the while the faces continued to stare. New terror washed over me, and I walked faster. I didn't want to hear them speak. I didn't want the voices to match those of my parents. They began to open their mouths, and the hands were inches from my feet. In a dash of desperation, I lunged towards the door, threw it open, and slammed it behind me. Room 8. I was done. After what I just experienced, I knew there wasn't anything else this house could throw at me that I couldn't live through. There was nothing short of the fires of hell I wasn't ready for. Unfortunately, I underestimated the abilities of No End House. Unfortunately, things got more disturbing, more terrifying, and more unspeakable in room 8. I still have trouble believing what I saw in room 8. Again, the room was a carbon copy of rooms 3 and 6, but sitting in the usually empty chair was a man. After a few seconds of disbelief, my mind finally accepted the fact that the man sitting in the chair was me. Not someone who looked like me. It was David Williams. I walked closer. I had to get a better look even though I was sure of it. He looked up at me and I noticed tears in his eyes. Please. Please don't do it. Please don't hurt me. What? I asked. Who are you? I'm not going to hurt you. Yes, you are. He was sobbing now. You're going to hurt me and I don't want you to. He sat in the chair with his legs up and began rocking back and forth. It was actually pretty pathetic looking, especially since he was me, identical in every way. Listen, who are you? I was now only a few feet from my doppelganger. It was the weirdest experience yet, standing there talking to myself. I wasn't scared, but I would be soon. Why are you? You're going to hurt me, you're going to hurt me. If you want to leave, you're going to hurt me. Why are you saying this? Just calm down, alright? Let's try and figure this... And then I saw it. David sitting down was wearing the same clothes as me, except for a small red patch on his shirt, embroidered with the number 9. You're going to hurt me, you're going to hurt me. Please don't, you're going to hurt me. My eyes didn't leave that small number on his chest. I knew exactly what it was. The first few doors were plain and simple, but after a while they got a little more ambiguous. 7 was scratched into the wall, but by my own hands. 8 was marked in blood above the bodies of my parents, but 9? Number was on a person. A living person. Worse still, it was on a person that looked exactly like me. Welcome back! Welcome back! David? I had to ask.
Yes.
Yes, you're going to hurt me. You're going to hurt me. You can hear the sob and rock.
Hello, Yuna! Welcome back! What is it, Yuna? What is it?
Let me drink some more water. Let me drink some more water.
How am I doing? I am doing very good. We are reading spooky stories, and I'm having a good time.
He answered to David. He was me, right down to the voice. A girl...
Oh! Congratulations! Volleyball. I've tried volleyball before, but I was really, really bad at it. Well, I'm glad you're excited. I hope you have fun with it. Oh, it seems like a very fun game. I'm just not good at hitting the ball. I'm not sure. I'm not good coordinated when it comes to things being thrown at me.
Let me drink some more water. He answered to David. He was me, right down to the voice. But that 9. I paced around for a few minutes while he sobbed in his chair. The room had no door, and similarly to room 6, the door I came through was gone. For some reason, I assumed that scratching would get me nowhere this time. I studied the walls and floor around the chair, sticking my head underneath and see if anything was below. Unfortunately, there was. Below the chair was a knife. Attached was a tag that read, "To David, from management."
Your cookie? Oh my goodness. Your cookie. Here, hold on. 1 second. I've got your cookie for you. Just wait a second. Hold on. I got your cookie. There you go. There's your cookie. Okay.
The feeling in my stomach as I read that tag was something sinister. I wanted to throw up, and the last thing I wanted to do was remove that knife from under the chair. The other David was still sobbing uncontrollably. My mind was spinning into an attic of unanswerable questions. Who put this here, and how'd they get my name? Not to mention the fact that as I knelt on this cold wood floor, I also sat in that chair, sobbing in protest of being hurt by myself. It was all too much to process.
What am I reading? I am reading Creepypastas. Right now we are reading No End House.
The house and the management had been playing with me this whole time. My thoughts for some reason turned to Peter and whether or not he got this far. If he did, if he met a Peter Cherry sobbing in this very chair, rocking back and forth. I shook those thoughts out of my head. They didn't matter. I took the knife from under the chair and immediately the other David went quiet. David, he said in my voice. What do you think you're going to do? I lifted myself from the ground and clenched the knife in my hand. I'm gonna get out of here. David was still sitting in the chair, though he was very calm now. He looked up at me with a slight grin. I couldn't tell if he was going to laugh or strangle me. Slowly, he got up from the chair and stood facing me. It was uncanny. His height and even the way he stood matched mine. I felt the rubber hilt of the knife in my hand and gripped it tighter. I don't know what I was planning on doing with it, but I had a feeling I was going to need it.
You gotta go? Okay. Thank you for standing by, Yuna.
Now, his voice was slightly deeper than my own. I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to hurt you and I'm going to keep you here. I didn't respond. I just lunged and tackled him to the ground. I had mounted him and turned. I looked down, knife poised and ready. He looked up at me, terrified. It was like I was looking in a mirror. And the hum returned low and distant, though I could still feel it deep in my body. David looked up at me as I looked down at myself. The hum was getting louder and I felt something inside me snap. With one motion, I slammed the knife into the patch on his chest and ripped down. Blackness fell in the room and I was falling.
Thanks, welcome back! This is the spooky creepypasta reading setup. We are in the void and it is raining a little bit. The spooky setup.
The darkness around me was like nothing I'd experienced up to that point. Room 4 was dark, but it didn't come close to what it was completely engulfing me. I wasn't even sure if I was falling after a while. I felt weightless, covered in dark. Then a deep sadness came over me. I felt lost, depressed, and suicidal. The sight of my parents entered my mind. I knew it wasn't real, but I had seen it, and the mind has trouble differentiating between what's real and what isn't. Sadness only deepened. I was in room 9 for what seemed like days. The final room. And that's exactly what it was, the end. No End House had an end, and I had reached it. At that moment, I gave up. I knew I would be in that in-between state forever, accompanied by nothing but darkness. Not even the hum was there to keep me sane.
Where are the clouds? Up in the sky, silly.
I'd lost all senses. I couldn't feel myself. I couldn't hear anything. Sight was completely useless here. I searched for a taste in my mouth and found nothing. I felt disembodied and completely lost. I knew where I was. This was hell. Room 9 was hell. Then it happened. A light. One of those stereotypical lights at the end of the tunnel. I felt ground come up from below me and I was standing. For a moment or two of gathering my thoughts and senses, I slowly walked towards the light. As I approached the light, it took form. It was a vertical slit down the side of an unmarked door. I slowly walked through the door and found myself back where I started. The lobby of No End House. It was exactly how I left it. Still empty, still decorated with childish Halloween decorations. After everything that had happened that night, I was still wary of where I was. After a few moments of normalcy, I looked around the place trying to find anything different. On the desk was a plain white envelope with my name handwritten on it. Immensely curious, yet still cautious, I mustered up the courage to open the envelope. Inside was a letter, again handwritten. David Williams. Congratulations! You've made it to the end of the No End House. Please accept this prize as a token of great achievement. Yours forever, Management. With the letter were 5 $100 bills. I couldn't stop laughing. I laughed for what seemed like hours. I laughed as I walked out to my car and laughed as I drove home. I laughed as I pulled into my driveway. I laughed as I opened my front door to my house. And laughed as I saw the small 10 etched into the wood.
Whoa! Whoa! It was really a no end house! There really was no end, it kept going! The prize is a gift card to Starbucks! Oh my goodness! All of that psychological damage for a gift card to Starbucks. That's a fair trade, I think. The coffee makes it better. There's actually a part 2 and 3 and 4? Oh my goodness. Have you heard of Hatsune Miku? The bad ending. Man, so sad. There's a part 2, 3, and 4. Oh my goodness, that's crazy. That's crazy. And this one's super long, so man. With the other parts, that makes it really, really long. Let's see, what else do we have? What else do we have? Let me take another drink of water. Let me take another drink of water. Yes, yes, I enjoyed it. That was fun. That was really fun. Blah, 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 blah. Here we go. Okay. I will go again for just a moment. I will go again for just a moment, and then I will come back, and we will get to the next story. Ba-ba-ba. Okay, anyway. I'll be right back. One moment, please. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. I am back. I am back. Wow. And Krog is back too. Okay. Let's see. Next is... Okay, here we go. Next story is... The attic in the basement. That is not a normal place for an attic to be. Not normal at all. Okay, here we go. This is a shorter one because all the ones I left are shorter ones. Sort of. There's another one that is longer, but due to the format, I may or may not actually be able to do it. Anyway. Let's get started.
Quiet down back there, I yelled whilst driving down an all too familiar road. My best friend and his girlfriend wouldn't stop laughing loudly with each other, much like young couples do. I almost regretted bringing them, but I really didn't want to go alone, and inviting one of those two lovebirds meant inviting the pair. They were a package deal. Lucky for me, the torturous sound of laughter would soon cease as we were approaching our destination. We're here, I stated, less to the point of our arrival and more to shut the two of them up. I just wanted some peace and quiet so I could think clearly. I wasn't exactly mentally prepared for what needed to be done. My aunt's old house was just as I remembered it. A rickety old cottage down a dead-end road in the middle of nowhere, complete with woods, wildlife, and the welcoming smell of roses that she often planted near the stone walkway. That was when it finally hit me. While traversing that very walkway, smelling those very roses, I stopped dead in my tracks, tears welling up in my eyes. "Are you okay?" my friend's girlfriend asked. "Yes, I'm fine. I just need a second." They looked concerned, but understood. What else would they expect of me, coming back to my aunt's house right after she died? Honestly, it felt a little weird. I might have been her favorite nephew, but after leaving me everything in her will, it seemed wrong to go out there so soon. The service was held just a day prior. I knew everything she had wasn't much, and I knew I wasn't really there to collect my inheritance, but I still felt bad. And at this moment, I felt even worse. The memories I had of her were being dredged up with every step I took towards the front door. I hadn't seen her since I was 10 years old, but I could play every memory in my head like a movie. I was very close to her in those days. She might as well have been my mom. My actual mother cared for me, but she wasn't loving in the way that my aunt was. I remember visiting her after school and being greeted with some cliché milk and cookies. Instead of watching television like a normal kid, she didn't own one, I would listen to my aunt play the piano for hours on end. We would sometimes go bird watching or work in the garden, things that I have not done or even thought of doing since. These are some of my most treasured memories, and just like treasure, I kept them locked up and hidden away for many years. Until now. As I approached the door to the cottage, I stopped my tracks once more. Seriously, are you okay? My friend asked this time, seeming very concerned. He'd never seen me like this before. I'm fine. Why don't you two take that hike you were talking about? I'll go on in and take a look around. You guys can meet me back at the car later. You say so. The two of them took off down a trail in the woods, and I was left standing there, looking at the house that I had not seen in many years. The feeling that overcame me was so strange, it's hard to put into words. It was more than grief, greater than sadness. I guess the best way to say is that I missed her. It's funny, if she could see me now, she probably wouldn't recognize me. I'm tall, bearded, and wear glasses, almost the polar opposite of my appearance as a child. Thinking of this just made me sadder. I'd never get to see the man I'd become. With one last sigh of emotion, I marched on, reached for the handle on the front door. My aunt didn't have locks on her doors or windows. The house was constructed so long ago that it wasn't even built with them. She could have had some installed, but she felt she didn't need them out in the middle of nowhere. She brought it up one of the first times I stayed there, saying, "Trust the world and it will set you free." When I was a kid, hearing her say this made me feel safe somehow. Being fully grown and recalling the statement now, I find it very peculiar. But then again, that was my aunt for you. Unpretentious and oblivious to the rest of the world around her. Honestly, I missed that part of her the most. All these memories came back to me piece by piece as I pulled the door open. The bittersweet release I felt was interrupted when I saw the inside of the cottage. Everything, and I mean everything, was exactly in its place. It was like I was a kid again, coming over after school to enjoy my aunt's company. My memories were projected right in front of me like a nostalgic outburst of energy. I could see my aunt sitting at the piano, playing as she often would. I could see me sitting there eating some homemade cookies, listening intently to the music. I could see her again cooking dinner in the kitchen as I sat on the couch reading one of her old books. I walked past these living recollections and went upstairs to see more. I stopped quickly when I reached the top of the staircase. I realized that it only led to the attic. I had no interest in it, remembering that my aunt used it for storage, so I traveled back downstairs. I didn't know what I was looking for exactly, maybe just a little peace of mind to put my heart at ease. Maybe just something that would let me know without a doubt that my aunt passed away peacefully. In truth, I felt an immense amount of guilt being in that house again. Almost too much to bear. When I was just shy of 11 years old, my parents moved out of state. This is when I stopped seeing my aunt. We kind of lost touch, especially seeing as she didn't have any real means of communication out there. No phone, no computer, she didn't even have a mailbox, and the nearest post office was over 20 miles away. Being older now, I could have easily paid her a visit, and I'm sure she would have loved to have seen me. Guess I just thought she would be there, always be there. Unfortunately, she had a heart attack, and with no hospital or neighbors for miles, death came knocking on her unlocked door in a hasty fashion. At the very least, this visit had put the fleeting quality of life into perspective for me. At this point, I figured it was the only thing I would end up taking away from this place. As I made my way down the stairs and back into the living room, I noticed something. I was in such a hurry to escape my corporeal memories that I didn't notice it before. It was a desk where my aunt would sit and write for hours at a time. She said that it helped her experience the world outside of her cottage by writing about how she imagined and wanted it to be. The more I remembered my aunt, the more I could see how isolated and somehow unstable she really was. She was odd, but I loved her just the same, even now. What I hadn't noticed upon entering the house was that the desk drawer was open. I looked inside and found a single sheet of paper with my aunt's handwriting on it. This is what it said. To my dearest nephew. If you are reading this, then the cold tides of death have swept me away once and for all. I know that we've not seen each other since you were a child, but I hope you still think fondly on our time together. I was happy to look after you, and I know that you were happy to spend time with me. I don't want you to be sad or feel off-put about my death in any way. This is how it is, and in turn how it was meant to be. I will always hold you dear in my heart, and I hope you'll do the same for me. I want you to live freely despite this, and enjoy each and every moment of your life, just as I did mine. I will see you again someday, and I look forward to it. Trust the world, and it will set you free.
Cat food, meow!
I shed a single tear reading this passage, knowing my aunt wanted me to find peace in this old house. The very closure I was looking for was in her desk the whole time. The elation I felt almost distracted me from the postscript at the bottom of the page. P.S. Don't go in the basement. How peculiar. What was down there? Was my aunt hiding something? If so, what was it? Curious as ever, I walked over to the basement door with the letter in hand, knowing that the answers were down there. I took one last look at the warning. Don't go in the basement. It was most likely the ramblings of an unstable woman on the verge of death, but what could be the real meaning behind it? Why the basement? Why me? I could recall the basement from when I was younger, but I didn't remember much. I'd only been down there once. My aunt was outside gardening while I was inside reading one of her books. I grew tired of reading and set the book down on her desk. Soon after, I began wandering around the house out of boredom. I walked around the entire cottage rather quickly. Eventually, I came upon the basement, somewhere I had never played before. Knowing my aunt wouldn't be in for a while, I decided to venture on. I turned the knob and swung the door open. I could only see the top of the stairs descending down to darkness. Despite the bit of fear rattling in my chest, I pressed on. Once down there, my field of vision was filled with pitch blackness. It caused me to scramble about looking for a light switch. After a few moments, I bumped into a string dangling from the ceiling in the middle of the room. Upon pulling it, the room lit up, however dimly. What I saw disappointed me.
Hello, Chopper, thank you for looking!
It was a typical basement, but smaller with concrete walls, a concrete floor, and some pieces of wood sitting off in the corner. Probably some old floorboards left over from the house's construction. When you're a kid, there's a bit of mystery and adventure injected into everything you do. This adventure ended on a flat note, leading me to an unused space, lost to the depths of the house. The next thing I remember was my aunt's voice as she came down the stairs yelling, "You can't be down here!" I sounded more worried than angry, probably scared I would somehow hurt myself down there. There was more to this memory, but that was all I could recall while standing in front of the basement door. I turned the knob and swung the door open, revealing only the top of the stairs and the basement below, completely void of light. Instead of feeling adventurous like I did as a child, I now felt nervous, repeating the words my aunt had left for me over and over in my head, and then asking myself once more, why?
Thank you for looking to aircraft! Hadi audrey sumora.
I crept down the stairs slowly so as not to shake the foundation. That's what I told myself, but I guess my sluggish pace was largely on account of the fact that I was frightened at what I might find when I reached the bottom. Growing impatient and uncomfortably anxious, I picked up the pace a bit. I felt the concrete below my feet, and I rapidly darted towards the center of the room, reaching for the light, praying that it still worked. I felt around for the string and then pulled it. To my delight, it still harbored electricity. The room became dimly lit. In a panicky state, I spun around looking every which way as I did. What I saw surprised me. There was nothing there. It was just how I left it when I was a kid. Even the old floorboards were there, still untouched. I felt relieved, but far more confused than before. Why didn't my aunt want me to go down there? I pondered for a bit and figured that maybe there was asbestos or mold in the cellar walls. That would explain why she didn't want me playing in there as a kid, and why she didn't want me in there as an adult either. She just wanted to keep me safe, like she always did. This made me feel better, but deep down I knew there was more behind my aunt's plea. As I made my way over the stairs, something gave me pause. Memories were coming back to me. I could recall being in the basement when I was younger, but there was something different about it. Different than how it looked now. There was a door. A door that led straight to the attic. How could I have forgotten? It was all so clear to me now. I remember finding a door down there and entering the attic. I knew that it was the attic because I peered out the window and I saw my aunt gardening 2 stories below. I waved to her, but she was too busy to notice me. I found it odd at the time that I was able to travel directly from the basement to the attic without so much as climbing a single step, but I brushed it off. After all, I was only 10, and I had no interest in getting caught up in the semantics of how a house was built. Being older, this strange memory was perplexing. How could the basement lead to the attic? It isn't even remotely possible. I tried to call in some more memories, but the details of that day were still fuzzy. I tried convincing myself that it was a dream I was recalling. How could it have been anything else? It was nonsense, right? There was no way it really happened. Somewhat comfortable with the hypothesis, I continued to the stairs, but not before giving the basement another once-over. What I saw eliminated all doubt from my mind. There, in the middle of the far left wall of the basement, was the door from my memory. I squinted and rubbed my eyes, keeping them closed for a good few seconds before opening them again. When I did, the door was still there, as tangible and existent as ever. This couldn't be. It just couldn't. I knew for a fact the door was not there a few moments before, and I had already convinced myself that my child's memory was nothing more than a bizarre dream. What the hell was going on? There was only one way to find out. After regaining some composure and mustering up a small amount of courage, I walked, however slowly, towards the inexplicable door. My unhurried movements mirrored my hesitant exterior, allowing me to stall for a moment while I gathered some nerve to actually open the damn thing. Despite my slothful motion, I covered the gap in a few seconds, a testament to the basement's small size. The moment of truth was upon me. I took a deep breath, turned the knob, and pushed the door open. This was it. I'd finally get to the bottom of my aunt's plea and my own odd memories. The door creaked and revealed the room behind it. Lo and behold, it was none other than the attic, just as I remembered it, window and all. But how? The sunlight came through the window and danced across the room brilliantly, leaving me awestruck. I walked forward to look outside, to make sure this was indeed the attic, and that I hadn't gone completely crazy. After peering out the window, that verdict was still up in the air. 2 stories below was my aunt's yard. The grass was green as ever, and the sky was clear as day. Everything was so vibrant. I looked over at my aunt's garden, and to my surprise, there was a person there. It was a woman, and she was gardening. What's that, and why was she in my aunt's garden? She turned around, revealing her face, and to my surprise, it was my aunt. What? How? My aunt was dead. I watched as she was lowered into the earth. Just then, I heard the sound of footsteps from behind me. Startled, I turned around to face the noise. Who are you? A soft voice asked. It was my 10-year-old self, standing just 20 feet away from me. I was in such a delirious state by this point that I decided to just go with it and converse with myself. I'm a friend, is all I could think to say. You're a friend of my aunt's? He asked innocently. I had forgotten just how curious I was as a child. Yes, a very dear friend. My younger self walked over to look out the window where I was standing. I stepped aside and let him do so. He saw our aunt outside gardening below and waved at her. She didn't notice. You have an aunt? He asked. Yes, but she passed away, I said. Sorry to hear that. Just then, an epiphany struck. Maybe this was the reason I was here. Maybe this was the closure I needed all along. Listen to me. I know it's hard for you to understand right now, but someday your aunt will pass away too. I want you to spend as much time as possible with her and visit whenever you can. You mean the world to her, and you'll regret it if you don't make an effort to be with her now while you still can. Okay, is all he said. That's all he needed to say. After walking around and looking at some of the old stuff in the attic, including some old books that caught his eye, my younger self left the attic to venture back into the basement and shut the door behind him. I looked out the window and noticed my aunt had finished gardening and was now walking back to the house. This was when my next epiphany struck. I was beginning to remember more of the events from that day. It was all coming back to me. I remembered more as I looked now, standing in the attic, the friendly bearded man with glasses. I remembered the conversation we had and even discussing it with my aunt afterwards. My astonishment was interrupted by more footsteps in the next room. This time they were my aunt's. I ran over to the door and listened. "You can't be down here," she yelled in a worried tone. I wanted to open the door and confront her just to see her one last time and to tell her that I'm sorry for never visiting. I reached for the knob, but I thought it best not to go out there. She probably just thought that I was an intruder lurking around her house. As I said before, she wouldn't recognize me all grown up. My apology would have to go unspoken. I could hear her scolding the younger version of me and then bringing me back upstairs. Instead of listening to find out what happened next, I just remembered. I could recall telling my aunt about the attic door in the basement and the friendly bearded man. She told me that I had quite the imagination and told me to wash up for dinner. Looking back now, I remember a troubled glint in her eye, especially after divulging what the bearded man told me. She seemed to know more about my experience than she let on. I stood there for a while, taking everything in. Eventually, I decided it was time for me to leave. I grabbed the knob and jiggled it. It wouldn't budge. I turned it a little bit harder, but to no avail. A wave of terror consumed me. It didn't make any sense. The doors to my aunt's house had no locks. And again, nothing made sense up until this point either. I backed up a little and ran into the door. I remained still. I did this a few more times and even tried breaking the window. Nothing happened. Feeling weary, I sat down and took a breather. Just when I heard a distant echo of footsteps and voices coming from within the house. It was my friend and his girlfriend. I'd almost forgotten about them. I was saved! In a relieved stupor, I called out to them. It became quickly apparent that they could not hear me from wherever I was. I heard them walking around, calling out my name. I increased my volume and started banging on the door. "I'm in here, guys!" I yelled, not knowing whether I was below or above them. They still couldn't hear me. I began to panic. I started screaming at the top of my lungs and banging as hard as I could on the attic door. I received no response. With a dead voice and pained hands, I gave up. I put my back against the wall and slid down to a sitting position, a few tears streaming down my face. I just sat there and listened as my friend and his girlfriend conversed from within the house. Where could he be? He said he'd meet us at the car, right? If he's not in the house, then where the hell is he? My friend asked his girlfriend. "Did you try the basement?" she asked. "Yeah, there's nothing but some old floorboards down there." "What about the attic?" she asked. "I tried there too. It was just filled with a bunch of old dusty antiques. We'll have to call the police and have them look for him too. He must have gotten lost in the woods looking for us." As they made their way out of the cottage, my heart sunk. If they'd already searched the basement and attic, then where was I? I quietly stopped in the corner for a while before looking through some of my aunt's old things. It was all I could do at this point. I didn't care for any of it, save for one treasure of hers that caught my eye. It was a book with a blood-red symbol hand-painted on the front. I'd never seen anything like it before. I opened it up and read the beginning aloud. "The spells in this book are to be followed precisely. If even one step is not executed properly, you might endanger yourself and those around you. Use these spells at your own risk." The odd nature of the preface littered my nerves with a sense of worry. Was my aunt a witch? Before turning the page, I noticed an old lace bookmark saving one of the pages. I opened up to it and looked at the chapter heading. Chapter 9. Horticulture. I glanced over at the next page and saw a spell meant to bring your garden to life. The ritual involved lighting some candles and making a circle of some special sand I'd never heard. From within the circle, you are to recite the spell verbatim. My Latin was a little rusty, but from what I could read of the incantation, it said something along the lines of, "Bring above that which is below," which I assumed referred to the growing of plants. I gathered that my aunt performed the ritual in the attic, as there were some dormant candles in with her stuff. The inclusion of this book in my aunt's collection now made sense to me. She wanted to spice up her doll garden with a bit of witchcraft. I can say with some confidence that more than likely backfired. I'm now stuck in this damned place, a place that seems to be a realm of its own. I'll more than likely spend an eternity here. I'm growing now to accept my fate. She did warn me, after all. I should have listened. It was my fault and mine alone. With the endless paper and writing materials here in this old attic, I'm left to do nothing but write down the words, what has happened to me, in hopes that someone may come across it somehow. The words of a living ghost. If you're reading this, please listen to what I have to say. Your time here is not boundless, and at any moment the horrid hand of the unknown could come knocking at your door, there to bereave your loved ones, steal you away from your blissful ordinary existence. The cause of this sudden upheaval will be death, or in my case, something far worse. Last but not least, if you're ever in this neck of the woods and feel need to stop in and say hi, go right ahead. I can't promise you that you'll get a response. I just want you to remember two things. Your life is fleeting, so spend your time wiser than I did mine. And whatever you do, don't go in the basement.
Da-da-da-da-da-da! Like a bedtime story. A spooky bedtime story! Spooky bedtime story! There we go. Let's see. I have one normal story left, a short one, and then one that I may or may not be able to do again because of the format. So let's go ahead and do this. Just listen to my voice. I mean, hey. That does it. That'll do it. Like, ah, yes. Sounds. Oh. Here we go. I will drink some more water. Here we go.
I'm here to discuss my experiences with a band known as Vtuber. They are a progressive death metal band based in my hometown of Battered Grove, a small but lively town in New England. The band consists of 5 members, a drummer, 2 guitarists, and a bassist, and a vocalist.
Don't scream out of nowhere. I will do my best.
Beyond their roles in the band, I know little about them. They've exclusively played shows at my hometown venue since they formed a few months ago. Nowhere else, but I've never seen them in town before. I still don't. I don't even know their names. The band and its members are shrouded in mystery. The only thing I'm certain of is what I've witnessed.
Hello, wandering Twitch goblin. Welcome. Thank you for wandering in. Oh.
Before we get into the details of what I've experienced, let's talk about Battered Grove's local music scene. The bands here and in the surrounding towns are predominantly metal, or at least metal in some form.
Greetings.
The genres range from extreme metal, death metal, and black metal to metalcore, deathcore, and even grindcore. If you aren't familiar with these genres, don't worry. It's not important to understand the context of my situation. I'm just trying to paint a clearer picture for those who are familiar. These bands play at our local venue, Garrett's Locker. It's a small, rundown place, but it's ours. A great place for kids to have fun. I go there every chance I get. Watching bands, in addition to moshing, is a great stress reliever, but it's more than that. Being at a metal show is a thrilling experience. The environment is positive, the people are friendly, for the most part. Occasionally there's a moron who likes to crowd kill every chance they get, and the music is phenomenal.
Thank you for the follow, wandering Twitch goblin. Thank you.
It's a heavenly assault on the ears and an alleviating comfort to the soul. There's nothing else like it.
So true. Metal music is awesome.
In more recent years, financial issues have led the venue owners to allow in touring bands. These bands have a bigger draw than locals, and more people equals more money. There's nothing wrong with keeping your head above water, especially when it means saving the place, but I miss when our venue was ours and only ours. It was like a secret club, almost. A place for local musicians only. Our escape from the day-to-day troubles of the world. I mean, it still is all that, but the touring bands bring fans with them that just don't care. Seeing girls that care more about who's cuter rather than the actual quality of the material. I'm not judging, I just miss the old crowd. One day, I noticed an invite on Facebook to an event for Garrett's Locker. It was a show, but not just any show. It was an all-local Metal Fest jamboree, as it said on the page. All locals, huh? I was intrigued. I hadn't been to a show at Garrett's with all local bands in years. This was great, I thought. I looked at the lineup to see who was playing. I recognized every band on the bill, save for one. Vtuber. They must have been new, I thought, but new local bands almost always were openers. Vtuber was headlining the event. I found this very odd, but I assumed they paid the promoter for the spot or something. Things like that happened occasionally. Rarely, but they happened. I figured this must have been one of those times.
Oh my goodness, really? That's strange. That is strange. Oh, that's very unexpected.
Fast forward to the day of the show. My friend Billy and I showed up early as we usually did. We always loved to hang out in front of the venue for a while before the show started. It gave us a chance to meet friends and meet some of the bands during load-in. We already knew all the members in these bands, having seen them play for years. Instead of a meet and greet, it was more like a family reunion. But at every family reunion, there was always new relatives to meet. You know, those cousins you never knew you had. That was Vtuber. While talking with the lead singer of my favorite local band, a bus pulled up. Thinking it was an actual bus using the parking lot to turn around, everyone got out of the way. Instead of turning around, it parked. That's when I noticed the lettering on the side of the bus. BB. That's when I knew it belonged to Vtuber. This was a surprise. No local band or even touring band had ever showed up to Garrett's with a bus. It was always either multiple cars, a couple of pickup trucks, an SUV, or a van. Having an actual tour bus was impressive, especially for a local band. This, coupled with the fact that no one else knew anything about the band either, caused everyone to stare. We were waiting to put a face to the name, so to speak. We were waiting for the big reveal.
Oh my goodness. I mean, hey.
With equipment in hand, 5 cloaked figures came off the bus in an orderly fashion and walked into Garrett's. When I say cloaked, I mean cloaked, hood and all. I couldn't even make out a single face. Strange is an understatement. It was downright bizarre. Billy agreed, having seen nothing like it, and he's been to more shows than I have. Besides confusing us, Vtuber's grand entrance succeeded in making people interested. It was all anyone could talk about the whole night. The mystery surrounding the band was enough to make everyone insatiably curious. I have to admit, I was looking forward to seeing what they offered. The night was going well. I met new friends, enjoyed the music of some of my favorite bands, and moshed my heart's content. It was shaping up to be one of the best shows I ever attended. All of my favorites had taken the stage, and the only thing that would make the night better is if Vantablack lived up to the hype. Having not emptied my bladder all night, however, I took a bathroom break right before their set. The bathroom for Garrett's locker was actually in another building, connected to Garrett's via a long and narrow hallway. This meant a bit of a walk was needed to get there and back, which was part of the reason I hadn't gone all night. When I finally arrived at the bathroom, I noticed something weird. Among the many band stickers on the wall by the sink, there was something else. Carved into the wall was the letters VB, followed by a strange symbol. I figured that one of the Vantablack's members had put it there. Kind of messed up to carve into the wall, though, and besides, what was the purpose? Carving your band's initials and symbol into a bathroom wall isn't exactly the greatest method of promotion. I simply brushed it off and finished my business before returning to the show. Upon returning, I could hear the music as it filled the room. Vantablack had already begun their set. From the sounds of it, they were good. Not just good, but great. Even better when I got a view of the stage. Their members were dressed up in dark, brooding get-ups. Some of their clothing included gauntlets, spiked boots, chainmail, and horned helmets. Their vocalist was wearing what looked like samurai armor. They all had different styles, but all of their clothing line armor was black. To be honest, they looked like the villainous characters right out of an RPG. It was awesome. This is where things get a little weird. I was so caught up in the music and the band's appearance I didn't notice what was going on in the room. Looking down at the crowd, I realized what everyone was doing. They each had their left arm in the air and were swaying back and forth in unison. It looked as though they were in a trance. I've been to a lot of metal shows, so I know how things should operate. Movement from the crowd is always sporadic and unpredictable. This was not the case. Everyone was perfectly synchronized. No moshing or dancing, just swaying together like zombies. And let me tell you, it was creepy. After noticing the seemingly hypnotized audience, I caught up with Billy to see what was going on. I noticed him standing at the back of the crowd, so I went over to him and asked what he was doing. I received no response. I kept yelling in his ear, but he wouldn't reply. I eventually became aggravated and shook him. Nothing. No reaction. Just constant swaying. Everyone swaying. I looked over at the sound guy and the person running the concession stand. They too were moving back and forth, mesmerized by the music. I was baffled. I watched the rest of Vantablack's set from the back of the room, not knowing what the hell was going on. Eventually, they played their last song, and just like that, everyone snapped out of it. Looking dazed as ever, they all wandered out of the room into their cars. Billy was my ride home, so I followed him. On the drive home, I mentioned to Billy that I tried to get his attention during the show. He acted like he didn't recall this, but what he remembered was Vantablack. He wouldn't shut up about how great they were. It's all he talked about the whole ride home. He even ventured to say they were his favorite band now. That struck me as highly unusual. I'd known Billy for years. I also knew his favorite band. He would never put another band above them, especially after only seeing them play once. I didn't voice my thoughts to Billy, though. I just wanted to go home and sleep and forget about the whole thing. And I did, until the next morning. I woke up the next day sore. My arms and legs were in pain from the night before. Mashi will do that to you. Because of this, I popped a few aspirin before starting my daily routine. Everything was back to normal until I checked my phone. I had a few Facebook notifications. Nothing out of the ordinary at first. A like here, a comment there. One notification, though, was an invite from Billy to like the page Vantablack. I then remembered the peculiar show they put on and how they hypnotized my friends. I decided to do a little research.
I'll drink some water really quick.
I visited the Facebook page and checked out their music. They had one release, The Nihilist. It was free to download and contained 5 songs, all of which I recognized from the previous night. One that really stood out to me was Knowledge of the Damned. It's just the song they were playing when I entered the room. All songs were professionally recorded and sounded as high quality as any touring band's music would sound. I was impressed, but that wasn't what I came to the page for. I scoured the page for any answers to what happened the night before. I found little.
I only drink water. I drink water all the time. Hydrate, don't hydrate.
The page had just been created. There were no posts or pictures. Still, they had roughly 200 likes. It was also about the number of people who had attended the show. No new band could gather likes that quickly. It was unheard of. Something still wasn't adding up. As I sat there completely baffled, I noticed Vantablack make their first post. It was for a show the following day. It read, Vantablack's Secret Show, True Followers Only. The title was odd. I clicked on it to find out more. These were the details provided.
I only drink milk rarely. Like, I'll drink it, like, in, like, coffee or something, but I don't drink milk on its own. And kombucha? I've heard of kombucha. I can't do kombucha because I'm scared of it. I'm scared of kombucha. Oh, yeah. I'm scared of the fermented stuff. It's got, like, the, you know, like the bits. It's got the little guys in it, right? It's got the little guys in it. It's like yogurt. It's got the little guys in it. I'm scared of the little guys. Water. Water is the best drink ever. I gotta say, that's gotta be my favorite drink. Yeah, I'm scared of little guys in that. I'm scared of little guys. Now, let me drink some water. I will continue. Okay.
These were the details provided. Welcome to your new belief system. This is an opportunity to show Vantablack you are a true follower. Rules are simple. Find a Stygian tome. This will be your ticket into the event. It also contains the event's coordinates. Tome locations are outlined below.
Is why can I be scared? Well, I'm scared of the ocean. I'm scared of the ocean. I can be scared of some things, just not regular stuff.
Several locations were listed, including the Grovewood Cemetery right near my house. I didn't understand the secrecy or the meaning of the event, but I was compelled to find out more. Something wasn't right, and I wanted to know exactly what it was. I thought that perhaps the secret show would shed some light on the situation. As such, I decided to find a Stygian tome. I searched for a few hours in the cemetery before finding what I was looking for. Leaning up against one of the graveyards was a small, brown, leather-bound book. I picked it up and inspected it. It lacked any noticeable features aside from the black silhouette of a ram's head embossed on the front. Inside, there was a single page with the show's coordinates, followed by several blank ones. Despite the lack of characteristics, the book was very nice. Vantablack was going all out for the show. Made me want to attend the event even more, if only out of pure curiosity. The next day, I punched the coordinates into a GPS app on my phone. The place was in town, but seemed to be in the middle of the woods. This made me hesitant, but morbid curiosity outweighed my concern. I'd have to walk there, but it wasn't that big of a deal. A hike wouldn't be the worst thing for me. Giving myself enough time to get there before the event started, I set off into the woods behind my house. It took nearly 2 hours to reach the spot. There were no trails, so I fought with branches and briars most of the time. It was hell, but I made it there in time. Upon arriving, I noticed something right off the bat. I saw no instruments or equipment. Kind of hard to play a show without those, right? What I didn't know at the time was there would not be a show, at least not of the musical variety.
Am I scared of salt water? It's less the water itself and more the creatures inside of it. Salt water? I would not drink it, but I'm not afraid of it.
The members were standing near a large tree, wearing those cloaks they adorned when first entering Garrett's. Others were showing up. I watched as they walked over to the members, handed in tomes identical to mine, and then stood in a circular formation. I followed. The circular formation was purposeful. On the ground in front of us was a large design spray-painted in red on the ground. It was a symbol I'd seen carved into the bathroom wall contained in a circle. Before I could contemplate its meaning, I noticed Billy walk up and turn in his tome.
What did the fish do to me? Exist.
I was about to wave and say hi to Billy, but I quickly discarded the thought and chose not to. He looked different. Different but familiar. It was the same look he had when swaying during Vantablack's set. I then looked around and realized that everyone looked like that. They were all in a trance just like I had been during the show. I was the only one out of place.
Have I never gone swimming? I have, but only in really shallow water, and it was still very scary because of the fish that were there. Let me some water. So it seems your message is getting blocked for some reason. It seems whatever you're trying to send is being blocked because all I see is 3 little asterisks. Which is strange because usually when something gets blocked I'm able to see it, but clips. I'll have to check those out after the stream.
In an attempt to follow the pack, I decided to sport a similar expression on my face. I had to blend in with the true followers. I couldn't risk getting kicked out, especially after I'd traveled so far. Shortly after I did this, the vocalist stepped forward and removed his hood. The event was about to begin. Vantablack's vocalist spoke with authority and conviction, reciting the following at the start of the event. Welcome, believers. We appreciate the journey you've made to get here today. We appreciate the sacrifices you've made in your lives, past, present, and future. We are here now to share the burden. We are here today to unite as one people. Are you with me? In unison, everyone replied with a loud, yes! I failed to do so, but was sure no one noticed. For roughly an hour, the vocalist continued to speak and asked for more synchronized responses. I don't remember much of what he said, as hours more—
Hello, Meat Dog, thank you for the follow, thank you! Oh my goodness. Hello, Beelzebub, welcome back! We're like, oh goodness, no. The little guys, they're everywhere! Not the little guys. I try not to think about the little guys, to be honest. I try not to think about them. Like, the ones that are unavoidable, I just try not to think about, like the ones that are in your eyelashes. But I avoid adding more little guys to the little guy party, so to speak.
For roughly an hour, the vocalist continued to speak and asked for more synchronized responses. I don't remember much of what he said, as I was more focused on fitting in and figuring what might happen if my true intentions were discovered. I do, however, remember what happened towards the end of the event. It's difficult not to. At the end of the vocalist's long and drawn-out sermon, he raised his left hand and shouted, "No escape, no justice!" which I recognized as lyrics from Knowledge of the Damned. The group then repeated this back. I did as well, having caught on by this point. After this, one of the other members of the band came over the skull of a ram and placed it at the center of the symbol. The vocalist stepped forward until he was directly behind the skull. I didn't know what to expect. At this point, Vantablack's vocalist called out names. Full names. How he had that information, I don't know, but when he called out a name, that person would step up to the skull and face the vocalist. Billy was the first one called. Still hypnotized, Billy walked up to the skull and held out his arm. I was confused by this. The vocalist then pulled out a dagger from within his cloak and sliced Billy's arm, allowing the blood to drip onto the skull. Billy didn't react. I did instead. I shook in fear. Was my arm going to be cut as well? What if I screamed in agony? What would they do to me if they found out I wasn't a believer? These were the questions that raced through my mind as I watched my friend's blood paint the skull red. I watched in horror as names were called and skin from each person was torn open by the vocalist's blade. I didn't understand, nor did I want to. I just wanted to get the hell out of there. I thought about making a run for it, but I knew I wouldn't get far with the plethora of obstacles the forest offered. Plus, I was outnumbered. It would only take one person to catch up with me and drag me back to the ceremony. I decided to stay and play along. My name was the last to be called. I hesitantly stepped forward and faced the vocalist. He stared at me for an awkward length of time before speaking. Are you a true follower? Yes, I said. He continued to observe me and then spoke again. No escape, he shouted. No justice, I retorted almost instinctively. The vocalist then sliced my arm open, and my blood dripped onto the skull like the others before me. I felt the color drain from my face, but I didn't react. The pain was great, but my will to live was greater. The vocalist smiled and allowed me to walk back to the herd. I must have played my part well. After slicing my arm open, the vocalist concluded the event by thanking everyone for their participation. I began walking home, but started running when I got far enough away from everyone. I was officially spooked. However, I was more ecstatic that I was able to make it through the event. Who knows what might have happened if I had cracked under the pressure. After getting home and bandaging my arm, I sat down and took a deep breath, thankful to be alive. Vantablack has played many shows at Garrett's Locker since their sadistic ritual in the woods. I haven't gone to any of them. I wasn't affected like everyone else was, and I think it's because of what happens at the beginning of their sets, whether it be a spell, incantation, or ritual. I missed the start of their set that night due to my impromptu bathroom break, and that's most likely what saved me. Despite not going to their shows, I pay close attention to their Facebook page. After every show, they gain more followers. After each surge of likes, they put on another secret show. I don't know what to do. I'm scared of what's happening to my friends, and I'm scared of what Vantablack will do next. I thought of calling the cops, but I'm too paranoid. If the members found out that I was trying to put a stop to their antics, I could become a sacrifice in one of their rituals. I have nightmares about that day in the woods. It plays out like it did in real life, only instead of slicing everyone's arms, he stabs them in the heart, killing them instantly. I want to run, but cannot move. After watching everyone else die, the vocalist walks over to me. Just as he's about to deal the final blow, I wake up. Every single night this happens. Why? Why? The thing that scares me the most is that I keep finding myself listening to their music. It's the only thing that seems to comfort me, and when I do, I feel the need to join them. I feel the need to be a part of their nefarious cult, and I don't know why. I'm at the end of my rope here, and I can feel myself slipping. Their lyrics keep ringing in my head, and I think they hold true. There is no escape, and there is no justice. I don't think they can be stopped, and I don't think I can keep myself from them any longer. I want the nightmares to end. I think it's time to become a true follower.
Da-da-da-da! The end. Throw me in the ocean? No! Listen. I played Subnautica and it didn't fix me, okay? I got a little better, but it didn't fix me. Of course it's scary. It's supposed to be scary. Okay. I don't know if I can do the last one. I'll have to see. Hold on. Let me see really quick. 1 second. We're gonna go somewhere else for a second. Wait a second. Pop. Okay. Can't see you guys. Hold on, I can't see you guys in here. You guys are over here. But you guys weren't in that area. Hold on. Let me see if I can bring you guys over here. 1 second. Let me see if I can bring you guys over here. There you guys are! Will you throw me into the ocean carefully? I feel like that still wouldn't be ideal. There we go. Let me... What? Oh, I see what the problem is. Hold on, I know why I can't see you guys. Hold on, I know why I can't see you guys. 1 second, I'm figuring it out. This is a little wonky the way we're doing this. There we go. Ignore the black around me. There we go. And you can see it too. Hold on. Let me move you guys somewhere else. Hold on. Let me move you guys in front of me. Now you can kind of see a little better. There we go. Will you give me a gift if I jump in the water? Well, it would depend on the gift. It would also depend on the deepness of the water. Will the HTC haystack rock? Oh? I've never heard of a haystack rock before. I've never heard of it. Is that like a thingy? Like a thingy? Hello, Frost, welcome back! Let's look at Reddit. Oh. Yeah. Landmark of the Organ Ghost? Oh. Okay. Hello, Omega Amateurs, thank you for the follow, thank you! That sounds interesting. Oh, lower voice. I'm gonna be doing a lower voice anyway.
10 meters deep water, I get a soda? You know, I'm gonna have to say maybe not. Wait, hold on. Lower voice. Hold on, it's below the... Hold on, let me fix this. Weird stuff is happening. I will fix it, though. There we go, now you can see that better. 235 foot tall... Oh my goodness. That puffins? There are puffins on the Oregon coast? Aren't puffins like penguins? What's the deepest water I would go into? Like waist deep. Let me think, like I would probably go like 3 feet max. 3 feet max. A puddle. Yeah, a puddle, exactly. A puddle. If it's... Listen, if it's deep enough for there to be creatures, it's too deep for me. Oh, puffins can fly? I'm learning today. Good to eat? I'm learning things today. I'm learning very strange things today. They're edible? Oh my goodness, all this time I thought puffins were just a type of penguin. Oh my goodness. Wow. I have learned today. Anyway, we're gonna do this last because I hope this works. I don't know if it's gonna work or not, but we're gonna read Ted the Caver, Ted's caving page, the page of Ted. Yeah, I saw a picture of a puppet when I was a kid. I was like, penguin. Oh, no creatures but deep water. I'm gonna have to say no. I'm gonna have to say no because there's still like the what if factor. Let's see. Maybe I should turn off the rain here. Let me turn off the rain really quick. Let me turn off the rain so that we can like see a little better. Whop. There we go. Now we can see a little better. Let's get started. Let's go through the page of Ted. It's cropped a little weird, but that's okay. Put it in the Discord? Okay, I will definitely look at it. I want to see it now. 32301. Due to the overwhelming number of requests I've received to tell about my discoveries and bizarre experiences in a cave not far from my home, I've created this webpage. I will outline the events that happened to me during the past few months. Beginning with my journey into a familiar cave in December 2000 and ending... Well, it hasn't exactly ended yet. I'll use my caving journal as the text to tell about my recent experience. I'll give them to you as I experience them in chronological order. I've included photographs that were taken during the many trips into the cave. I've also created a few illustrations to help the reader get a better idea of what things look like in the cave. All the photos were taken by me or one of the few people I went to the cave with. Yes, this is Ted the Caver. I read this a long time ago and I was like, oh, that's so good. I don't remember most of it, but I vaguely remember the end.
What are you going with? You like a sacrifice? Oh my goodness. I wouldn't make you sacrifice yourself for me. At that point, why don't we just not go in the water? Rather be in the open ocean near the coast? Not me. Let me drink some water really quick. A true classic, exactly.
I want to point out a few things before I tell about the events. Most of the pictures were taken with a Kodak disposable type camera. I took a better camera to the cave on 1 or 2 of the trips. Pictures on the site are all original photos and have not been messed with or enhanced, other than where noted. As a rule, I get my pictures put onto disk at the time of developing so I don't have to scan them later. This ensures the best digital quality. I will not reveal the names of the other people involved in this experience. If you know me well enough, you probably know them already.
You wouldn't do that to me, would you? Lie about creatures? You wouldn't do that to me. Oh.
I will not reveal the location of the cave to anyone for any reason, so please don't ask. I refuse to be held accountable for anyone's life by my own. I refer to the cave as Mystery Cave. That is not its real name. If you think these events sound far-fetched, I agree. I would come to the same conclusion had I not experienced them. I'll try to finish the site as soon as possible. Check the date on the main page to see when I've made updates. To protect myself from people who might want to copy this site, I included the following. All text on this and the following pages are my own words and copyright 2011. Ted.
The Discovery. Wow, there's a lot of text.
I'll divide this text into 2 colors for the sake of clarity. The gray text is taken directly from my caving journal. The italicized blue text is my comment as I reflect on the experience. I'll do my best to convey the thoughts and feelings I had during the entire event. I will not use the actual names of the other individuals involved. I will try to include the entire relevant text in my journal. Only small parts of the journal will I skip. This will only occur when the entry has nothing to do with the experience in the cave, such as eating dinner after a trip, getting fuel or snacks, relevant details, etc. My journal is fairly thorough. I will merely summarize what I'm cutting out of the actual entry. In an effort to present this experience in an accurate as light as possible, I'll type my journal as I wrote it. Sans grammar check. Please overlook any my errors. My additional comments will help clarify the things I wrote in my journal. Okay, Caving Journal 12/30/2000. B and I decided to get in one more caving trip before the new year, so we set our sights on Mystery Cave. Not a spectacular cave, but neither of us had been caving in a while. It'd be nice to go to any cave. There was a bit of excitement to this trip. There's a small passage in the lower portion of the cave that I wanted to check out to see if it was possible to get past it. It had a small opening, but lots of air blowing out of it. Even though it's way too small to climb through, I'd never even checked to see what was inside the passage. We got our gear loaded up and hit the road by 3 p.m. We got to the cave in great time since B likes to drive fast. We anchored from the usual tree and began to rappel into the cave. I went down first and got my gear together while B came down.
Do I expect the ocean? I decline. I respectfully decline the ocean swimming offer. Yeah, honestly, me too. I can't understand people who do caving. I can't understand them. They're crazy in a very different way from me.
I went down first and got my gear together while B came down. I'll refer to B many times. We've been caving together for many months now. He was injured in a caving accident a few years ago and was told he would never walk again. Through hard work and perseverance, he not only walks, but can get around very well in caves. The trickier parts of a cave might slow him down a bit, but he can make it. He patiently works through an obstacle until he gets past it. As for the reference to the small opening in the cave, there's the same on cavers. If it blows, it goes. Meaning, if a passage has good flow of air, then it's probably worth investigating. When the Organ Caves one's big.
Oh, yeah, honestly, going in a... You're not meant to go in a cave. Human beings aren't supposed to go in there. That's the ground. That's where creatures go. You're not supposed to be in the cave. It's dark down there. It's scary. There's weird bugs. Why would you go down there? I don't understand it, you know? I don't understand it. Like, oh, I want to see the nature beauty. There's creatures. It's dark. It's damp. It's cold. Scary. What if you get stuck? Scary. What if there's a cave in? Scary. Caves are no good. Really quick, before we continue, I have to go get more water. I am out of water. So I'll be right back really quick, and then we will continue with the cave. Ignore the weird glitches that are happening around my head, because that's just to make it so you guys can literally see everything. Anyway, really quick, I'm going to go get some water. I'll be right back. I am back. I am back. Wait, I'm gonna go to a cave alone, also non-human creature? Maybe. Cave is slightly less scary than ocean. I would say there's no fish in cave, so yeah, I would go in a cave. Only a little bit though. Only a little bit. Only a little bit. You know what? I would not be living in a cave. I would be out there like inventing the hut or something. I would invent the hut. Just so that I wouldn't have to live in a cave. Never know what a non-human is? Well, is it friendly? Is it friendly? If it's friendly, I'll do it. If it's not friendly, maybe. Maybe. As long as it's not a fish. As long as it's not a fish, it's fine. Or like a giant bug. As long as it's not a fish or a giant bug, it's okay. I mean, yeah. Who wants to live in a cave? It's damp in there. It's damp and it's dark. Well, the cave that floats during high tide? That's awful, then. That's awful. That's like the worst. That's the worst of both situations here. The worst possible of both situations. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yes, it doesn't have... Ah, well, then I would have to become master chef, then. Cooking up the finest cave sprouts or something. I don't know.
After we explored all the usual passages, we climbed down to check out the hole. The hole is located deep in the cave, near the lowest parts of the cave. It's on the side of a cave wall about 3 feet from the floor. To look inside the hole, you had to kneel down to duck under an overhang of rock.
Let's click to see a photo of the original opening for the glove in the hole for size reference. Blah. Yep, that's a glove in a hole, all right.
Now, Southern Oregon goes to have to see.
What is up with Oregon? Puffins? Sea lions? Are there just like a lot of weird creatures in Oregon that I don't know about? Oregon sounds like the kind of place that would have like cow and horse. But not puffins and sea lions? People living in caves? Honestly, I would believe it. I know they're, you know, somebody like, oh, I want to go live in a cave. You know? Sea lions are weird. Sea lions are scary and weird. I mean, hey. As long as you don't go in a cave, you might not see the cave people, you know? They're staying in the cave and you stay out of the cave. There we go.
I used my backup mini mag light and held it inside the hole to see what I could see. I was excited by what I saw. The wall around the hole was about 3 to 5 inches thick.
Oh, hello, Oculus Dilla, welcome back! Whales and dolphins? Oh my goodness. Starfish? Starfish are okay. Well, starfish are okay. Starfish are okay, although sometimes they look a little strange. Whales, I don't like. I'm not scared of them, I don't like them. Dolphins are evil. I don't like dolphins. They're too clever. They're too clever and I don't like them. And otter? Otters are okay. That's a river creature, that's okay. Otter doesn't count as a fish.
I used my backup mini mag light and held it inside the hole to see what I could see. I was excited by what I saw. The wall around the hole was about 3 to 5 inches thick. It led into a tight passage. The passage opened up a bit just inside the hole. It continued back about 10 to 12 feet in this small crawl space. After that, it seemed to really open up. Although how much we couldn't tell. This could be a virgin passage. Obviously, no one has passed through this route, but there could be a way into the passage from the other side. To even get to the crawl space, we would have to enlarge the opening. Currently, it's about the size of my fist. Once we get past the opening, we would have a tight crawl back to where we opened up. It would take some work, but we thought we could do it. We sat down for a few minutes to rest and contemplate our plan of attack. We sat there in the darkness, we could hear the wind howling from the other side of the passage. It was a low, eerie noise. We also hear a low rumble from time to time. No big deal, though. The cave is in the vicinity of a highway that has heavy trucks drive on it. We figured the rumble was the effect of the trucks resonating through the rocks. We determined that our best plan would be to haul a cordless drill into the cave to drill into the rock. Then we could take a bullpen and a small sledgehammer and break up the rock. It seemed pretty straightforward. We would widen the hole big enough to squeeze in and see what was on the other side. The effort to haul the equipment down to the hole would be a pain, but we hoped it would be worth it. I named the passage Floyd's Tomb, after Floyd Collins. It seemed to look like the tight spot where Floyd spent his last miserable days on Earth.
Oh? I mean, hey. Cave cannibals, you know. Whoa! Real MSP artifact. The wide area, the squeeze, unknown area, the original entrance. Yeah. You have to be a special type of crazy to go in that kind of passage. A special type of crazy. I don't understand it. Like, here, let me just... Into the darkness. That looks fun. Yeah. Fun! Fun! I cannot understand cavers. There is an unbridgeable gap between me and cavers that is... It's not crossable. We cannot understand each other. We're like different species. I don't know why they're going in there. They don't know why I don't know why they're going in there. Ah, yes, the water marker creatures. What if this is a drop-off and it leads to an underground lake? We should go caving sometime? Oh, I don't know about that. Maybe if it's a well-lit, wide-open cave that's, like, been traversed by professionals who have deemed it A-okay and we don't go off in this thing, then that's fine. Yeah, spelunkers, there's something else. There's something else. They are something else. Hello, Double Dude, thank you for the follow, thank you. Here we go. Where are we? Here we are. Floyd Collins was a caver back in the early 1900s. He got stuck in a tight crawl space and was unable to free himself. It's an amazing story that is detailed in a book called Trapped, the story of Floyd Collins. I think that was the title. I don't recall the author. Calling our passage Floyd's Tomb was not only a tribute to Floyd, but a commentary on the size of the passage. In retrospect, it's funny how simple I thought it was going to be. I figured a few hours work we'd be in. I know how long it was going to take. I doubt I would have even begun the project. Had I known when I was going to experience in the cave, I never would have returned. We gathered up our gear and headed for the surface. Normally I couldn't care less if I ever came back to this cave. There's nothing special about it, but now I was psyched about getting back and getting through. We hadn't even left the cave when we were planning a return trip. The rest of the journal entry talked about the climb out of the cave, or dinner, and a trip back home. Won't find any mythical creatures in cave people? Well... yeah. That's the problem. There's no creatures if it's like an explored already cave. But if it's an unexplored cave, there might be sudden underground lake. And then you get in the lake and a fish monster eats you, you know? So, pros and cons. Pros and cons. I just realized we're very close to 700 followers. We're gonna be playing Alien Isolation soon, huh? Oh. Work begins. You know, I'm almost tempted. I think maybe after a couple more pages, maybe this page, a couple pages, I don't know. Soon, partway through this, you'll fight the fishes for me, but I'll take on, okay. I will fight the creatures, you fight the fishes. Good deal. Partway through this, I'm gonna stop. We're gonna stop partway through this. And then I'm gonna continue Ted Caving page on another day. And I'll do more stories as well. I want to read some SCP stories. And since I didn't do that today, we can do that on another day while finishing this. So yeah, we'll do that at another time. But I realized that this is a very long one. And there's a lot more text than I remember having. So I don't think I can actually finish all of it today. Oh. January 27th through 28th, 2001. B and I were both excited to get back into the cave and get to work. I figured with about 4 hours work we could be in and see what was on the other side. We'd arranged to borrow a DeWalt cordless drill to bring with us. We also had masonry bits to drill with, sledgehammers, too, to break up the rocks, bullpens to insert into the drill holes, and a few other tools we ended up not using. Getting the tools down to the worksite proved to be a challenge. One of us would climb down the rope and stop at a ledge or good resting place, and the other person would lower the tools. We kept repeating this routine until we got to the bottom of the cave. Then we had to drag the tools to the hole. It took about an hour to finally get to work. Would we know what house too? Oh my goodness, yes. Send me the link in the Discord, and I will give it a look. Bea took the first turn at the hole. After an hour of exhausting work, we could tell that we were not going to get through one session. We kept trading off after we worked ourselves into a sweat. One would take a break and get some food and water while the other went to work. The routine went like this. To begin work, we had to get down on our knees and do our best to avoid smacking our heads on the ceiling. Working in this awkward position, we would drill into the wall around the hole. That was difficult work. We really had to push on the drill, and it was still slow progress. Then we inserted the bullpen into the hole and hammered on it until the rock broke up. Then we would repeat the process. To give you an idea of how slow it went, the typical size rock that would break off was about fingernail size. If we broke off a large piece, about 1/3 the size of my palm, it was cause for celebration. Do we still eat the fish? If it's tasty fish, yes. From time to time, for variety, we would just wail on a cold chisel with a 5-pound sledge. It was slow progress. The problem with the sledge was that we couldn't take a good swing because of the tight quarters. Even though we spent many hours and several trips working on the hole, we never did find a better technique for widening the hole. The drill, bullpen, hammer got the best results for our efforts. We came up with some crazy ideas for breaking up the rock. Everything from TNT, never seriously considered, to hauling a generator to the mouth of the cave and running an extension cord down to a jackhammer. We even thought about using liquid nitrogen to freeze the rock to make it more brittle. After a couple hours of hard work, we realized what our limiting factor was going to be. It was about then that our first battery meant an abrupt death. We had a second battery, so we swapped them out. The second battery lasted a little longer because we hammered and chiseled a little more often and a little longer each time. Finally, after about 3 more hours of drudgery, the second battery died and we called it a night. Whew! We could tell that we had put on some work in the cave, but it was not much. For the first time since we got in the cave, we sat back and both of us took a break. It was nice to check out the results of our hard work. Then, we noticed the howling again. It seemed to be a little louder than last time we were there. We just figured the wind was blowing a little stronger outside.
We could not figure out what's the rumbling. It too seemed to be louder and more frequent. This time we could not attribute the noise to the trucks. The road that the trucks drove on was not very busy to begin with. At that time of night, you should be dead. Yet the rumbling continued. It seemed to be coming from deep within the passage. He said he would ask some veteran cavers what could be causing the noise. We didn't spend a long time admiring our work. We still had to haul the gear up and out of the cave. Actually, we left some of it in the cave. It was still difficult work. What made it worse was that we were both exhausted. Our original plan was to be done with this cave and hit a couple other caves in the area the next day. Instead, we decided to crash a nearby motel, charge up the drill batteries, and go back to Mystery Cave.
Are nightmares eatable? No, I'm not eatable. You can't eat me. I'm probably poisonous if you try to eat me. So they made the hole very slightly bigger. You can see the darkness behind it. Hello, Piper, welcome back! Yes, the Silent Hill music. I am very based. Oh. Yeah, I still have to play Silent Hill. But the music is so good.
My journal goes on at length about the right night after we left the cave. We got a room, dinner was excellent. I didn't sleep good despite the fact I was exhausted, etc. We both...
I'll drink some water. No dripping. That's how it is. Silent Hill? Oh goodness, it's on the list now. Oh. Now the real question is, I have three options. For Silent Hill. Do I wait for them to eventually release a proper PC port? Do I emulate it? Or do I try to get my hands on the hardware and get a capture card and do it like that? That's the real question. Am I poisonous? Probably poisonous? Well, I don't know. I've never taken a bite of myself before, and I feel like if I was poisonous, I would probably be immune to my own poison. So, people say Silent Hill 2 is the best? And the OG version? Oh. Let me tell you, Silent Hill 2, my favorite part is the only thing I really know about it is that scene. The one that I guess they butchered it in the remake. The one where he was like looking in the mirror. I have a shirt with that scene on it, actually. Fia curry! How about we make Fia curry that is Fia curry without Fia in it? We can use my recipe, but we can put something else in it instead of me, okay? We can put like potatoes or carrots or beef or chicken or something. I think my horn will probably break your teeth. It would probably break your teeth. I think it's a little too hard to bite. Splitting so no! No! Vegan Fia? Oh goodness. Oh, slow cook it? What would that even do? You're making Fia horn like bone broth or something? Oh, delicious soup. Impossible, Fia. Well, you know, Fia. It can still be Fia curry if you use my special Fia spice blend. Oh. We both slept in, so we got a late start back to the cave. The second day working on the cave went about the same as the first. We worked both until both batteries were dead again. We were still not even close to getting through. The howling rumbling continued as the day before. On caving. Fia spice, since when do I have that? Ever since I started making curry, obviously. My special Fia spice blend for curry. It's mostly... Hold on, wait, I get these two mixed up all the time. I think it's coriander? It's mostly coriander or cardamom. It's either coriander or cardamom, one of those. And mustard powder. That's my secret ingredient, those two objects. A lot of those two objects. Like, a concerning amount of those two seasonings. Like, go add that much spice to the curry until you're like, this is a little too much, and then keep adding more. And that's how much you need. On caving. So yeah, I think this is a very long page. I think both are common in curry? Exactly. Basically what I did was I took a pre-made seasoning blend from the store, and then I basically made my own version of that. And oh, it's good. It's so good. And oh my goodness, if you add some heavy cream to your curry when it's done, it gives it a very subtle, like, sweetness. Oh my goodness. Now I want curry. We're going to be continuing this another time though. Will it give you nightmares? Potentially. Whoa! I've got like an aura. Whoa, hold on, let me eliminate the aura. Blah! Boy, to spread back out. There we go. Hello! Oh, I'm back! Ah, yes! Yes. The Ted's caving site. Ted's caving page, Ted the Caver. Something or other. We are just about done. We're gonna be continuing it on another day because I'm about done for today. I've been reading. My voice cracked. I'm reading a lot of creepypastas. Turmeric, yes, turmeric. I don't have any turmeric right now on my shelves. I need to get some though because that's the good stuff. That's the good stuff. That's the good stuff. Anyway, will it give you nightmares? It will give you the opposite. It will give you only the sweetest dreams of delicious curry. No, no. No, no. My power just escapes sometimes and it makes that voice cracking sound. It makes that voice cracking sound sometimes. Yeah. Ba, 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 ba. Yeah. Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Thank you for the follow on the back. I'm glad you stopped by. That's at the very. I'm glad you stopped by. Yes, yes. First one you ever read? It's a good one. It's a really, really good one. It's a really, really good one. But yeah, I'm gonna continue that next time, and I'll probably read some SCPs as well because I would love to get into more SCP because I don't know a whole lot about it, and I would love to know more about it. Am I going to sleep? Yeah, I'm probably gonna go get a snack, and then I'm gonna go to sleep. Getting the snack, go to sleep. No weekend stream? Yeah, I've got no weekend stream scheduled for this week. I would like to do something special in December, but I haven't planned that out yet. Haven't planned that out. Ah! Haven't planned that out yet. I guess hold on. Let me really quick. Quiet down, music. Let me. Whoa! I turned the lights back on. I guess we can talk about this really quick. Since lower voice it is. Okay, I guess we can talk about this a little bit. Since I have you guys here. Say goodbye. Okay. Good night, Rajikami. Thank you for stopping by. Okay. So one of my Christmas time traditions. Every year I do the haunted PS1 Madvent calendar, a series of basically an advent calendar, but it's horror games instead of like a piece of cheap chocolate or something. So last year I considered doing that on stream, and this year I'm thinking about the same thing as well. But I have some things I'm still thinking about, because last year there were a few games that I would be uncomfortable streaming. There was some certain content in some games that I was a little uncomfortable with streaming. And since you don't really know what the games are going to be before you play them, and I wouldn't want to like play them myself and then stream them because they're short games anyway. They're meant to be done like one a day, so I wouldn't want to play them and then stream them because then there wouldn't be anything at all. It'd be very short stream anyway. So I'm still thinking about that. If anything, maybe what I could do is do my usual, I play a game every day on my own, and then maybe at the end of the month, I go through all of my favorite games and do a stream where I play all of my favorite ones in one go. But that's still just an idea. That's still an idea. Just keep you guys up to date on my concepts. And also I probably shouldn't tell you guys this because it fell through, but I'm working on something. I had something in the works. It fell through. I'm going to be redoing it. I was gonna be releasing it for Christmas. It's not gonna work for Christmas. So I'm gonna see if I can't get it out in February? Sometime in February? I think you guys are gonna like it because the last time I did something like it, you guys loved it. So I don't want to spoil it too much. It's going to be a little bit bigger than last time I did something like that. It probably won't scare you. It probably won't scare you. It has light horror themes. But that's about as far as it goes. Maybe. You might have an idea. You might. But yeah, all I can say is, I've got so many cool plans. Oh my goodness. I want to get into all of it right now, but I also want to keep it a secret because it's very exciting. I've got some fun stuff planned. I hope it all works out. Yes. I mean, hey, that's my thing. Horror is my thing. I love horror. It's like everything to me. Anyway. A real Subnautica planet? No. That is, I can say this as a nightmare. I am qualified to say that is the nightmare scenario. Like, hey guys, I'm back on the real life Subnautica planet. Just crashed our spaceship. Da-da-da-da. And now we are about to go get eaten by the Reaper Leviathan. It was nice knowing you guys. Hello, listen, welcome back. Yeah, a little, I'm just about to end. But, luckily for you, Lonesome Sad Loser, this is not the last time I'll be doing Creepypasta reading. We started one, we got to the first few parts of one today, and we'll be continuing it next time because I'll be doing more of this. Yes. So, you may have missed this one, but you have not missed everything. That's okay, that's okay. I'm glad you were able to stop by at all. Will there be a VOD this stream? Yes. Hopefully. As long as something weird doesn't happen with YouTube copyright stuff, there should be a VOD, yes. And also the VOD on Twitch should also still work, unless it gets muted because of the silent... It shouldn't get muted from the Silent Hill music. That's a game soundtrack, and usually game soundtracks don't get muted. So we'll see what happens. It should be available to watch on Twitch and YouTube. Yes. Yes. Thank you guys so much for coming. I had a whole lot of fun today. I'm going to admit, I will admit, I was nervous. I was nervous starting the stream. I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. Honestly, reading the whole time, I don't know how it's going to go. I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was good. I did have a good Thanksgiving. I had some delicious food. Stuffing, which is gluten-free. Oh my goodness, the good stuff. Stuffing, let me tell you. Stuffing is the best Thanksgiving food. That is it. That is it. That is the whole concept there. The best one. It's like bread, but with other delicious seasonings and stuff in it. Yes, thank you guys so much for coming. I had a whole lot of fun. This was a very good one. I'm excited for the next one. I'll have to schedule it. Stuffing with cranberry sauce and gravy. There you go. There you go. That's all you need. That's all you need. Today we will raid... Let's raid... You want to experience Thanksgiving? You could do that easily by just getting yourself lots of yummy food and eating it. Just eat lots of food. Bang. That's the Thanksgiving experience. Maybe have like one of those hand turkey things where you draw your hand onto a piece of paper and make it into a turkey. Boom. Thanksgiving. There you go. Let's raid... I mean, hey, the Thanksgiving lifestyle. It's the Thanksgiving lifestyle. Let's raid... Okay, we're gonna raid Ume Aino playing Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Five Nights at Freddy's. Is this where you wanna be? I just don't get it. Why do you wanna stay? Five Nights... Okay, anyway. Turkey, potatoes, stuffing, roast veggies, other families. There you go. There you go. That's how it is. The Thanksgiving menu. That's how it is. Anyway, thank you guys. So, a yum marshmallow, yeah, marshmallow casserole. Oh my goodness. That sounds, I'll put it politely, interesting. There are some strange foods, definitely. Anyway, it doesn't help that I don't like yams and I'm marshmallow neutral. And casserole's supposed to be like savory. Putting marshmallows in that is like a crime, isn't it? Anyway, thank you guys so much for coming. I'll be seeing you guys on Monday. I don't know what we're doing on Monday, but we're doing something on Monday, certainly. Anyway, I will see you guys then. But until then, I must say, bye-bye! Bye-bye-bye-bye! Marshmallows are okay.